I don't remember.
He's a legislator, but he's not.
What about now?
Other people down
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Okay. And then you can hear from up here. We should get you a set of headphones.
Well, I'm just gonna turn the volume off as long
Okay.
as I know it's still running.
Okay.
We're fine. but-
I need to balance that thing in a second, but you can hear from your phone right now as well, like we've got audio on all. Cool, all right. Thank you for checking.
5 minutes to spare.
Okay. And let's put this back on Zoom. So the meeting is what's in front, and now let's balance the camera because nice.
Handy dandy bag full of tricks.
Okay.
So we're ready to let them form the list.
Does that look balanced right now? No, it does not.
There.
Okay. Everything's tight, everything's square. I guess we are ready to let everybody in. I've got the camera for the front of the house.
Hi there.
Hi there, how are you, sir?
Pretty good, all set up?
Well, we're, this setup is, I think we're gonna wind up needing to be soon.
Right.
It's, the aging has the chart plans. That's outstanding. I'm gonna pick up some copies.
Maybe I should stop there. I have a big meeting tomorrow, and then if I need a smaller meeting, I can get. to the
If you do,
broker.
they should be right out in front of the lobby.
All right.
Just grab them, and they do both Rochester and Boston.
Okay.
They do an excellent job.
Yeah, they do. But then, of course, I still want my broker.
Oh, yeah, I am too, but
But I
it
want to know.
makes
what
the
I-
conversation a little quicker.
Yeah.
Or if you have questions about something, you can be specific.
My name is Ray Frank, Director for Development in the Dutch region. Yeah. We should get started anyway.
Right now, we're going to see, you know, people don't want to call my job until we see.
Okay.
Well, too many times.
Mother
I will be watching on the
87 this year.
Oh,
And,
sure.
He needs help every year when it all this.
Yes, okay.
Oh,
yeah.
There's no.
So it's all basically
Not yet.
the same. I mean, there's.
And I hope
I
that's
think
what
that
I
might be
needed.
different.
Oh,
for this year.
Still mind boggling.
Yeah,
I'm
getting code.
very nervous.
Yeah.
Very nervous.
Tracy took that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Straight ahead.
Thank you.
I'll be right in.
You're from the Daily? Oh, okay. Yes.
Eventually.
I got one, it's our last guy.
Yeah. It's always good to have the price. Yes.
Right,
Yes.
just speak from, you know,
Serious.
serious stuff.
Yes.
It'll cost, it'll cost more.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yes, Todd is right outside talking to the candidates. Yes, I did see that, yes. I'm not, yeah. Yeah. We have you right up front there. You can sit down. You're welcome to sit wherever you want. Almost, we'll wait a couple minutes. Yeah, we're gonna start right on the dot. I'll try to be the timekeeper today. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ray Frank. I'm the director for the center here in Batavia, in the Genesee region. Thank you for joining us. And we have a very full roster, so people may be interrupted towards the end of their talk. It's like 15 minutes on the dot because there's so many people.
Yeah. Like to expand, but I guess I talked to Jonathan Bumps last year.
We have a couple more people from. I just, we got people. Oh. All right. All right. Good morning. Welcome to Meet the Candidates. We are going to get started. So we have our streaming live and here in the room. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to keep people right to the 15-minute clock today. So I hope nobody feels bothered if we have to interrupt if you're in the middle of a discourse. But we do have a tight schedule to keep, so we will keep it rolling. So good morning and thank you, Sam. Introduce yourself.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Sammy DeSalvo and I'm running for City Council at large. Thank you to Independent Living and the Interpreter for being here. I really appreciate that. So I am running for City Council at large. This is my second at-large race. I ran back in 2020. And I'm going to give you a really brief introduction of kind of my larger platforms and what I'm kind of advocating for within the city. And then I'll take some questions that you guys can really ask me questions because I'm trying to build my campaign based on what you all say, not what I want to say. So a brief history about myself. I'm a lifelong resident of Batavia. My grandparents and my whole family have been here for a century. And I currently work at a college up in Rochester, and I'm getting my doctorate in education, and I'll be done in 6 months. And that is super exciting to be done and no longer be a student at 33. Some of the larger ideas that I am essentially pushing for right now are, number one, figuring out a way to have a more balanced budget because a lot of us are paying more and more every single year in our property taxes, and that is taxing us out of our houses. I was walking around 2 nights ago, and two people said that they're considering moving out of the city because taxes are becoming so high in the city, and they need to find a cheaper place to live. And with how large of a crisis housing is right now, if we're going to be taxing people out of their houses, that's not okay. My salary does not increase at the same percentage rate that my property taxes are increasing. And that's just a very large issue. And I think a lot of people are feeling that as life becomes more expensive all around. Another large thing that I'm pushing is just generally more focus on community and balancing that focus with community with the focus on downtown. I think businesses downtown and in Batavia are very important, but that kind of is the only focus of the city right now, and we need to balance that. So I want to balance that more, get more community involvement, more people involved, and just have both things grow at the same time. Because right now the scale is tipped for businesses and citizens are kind of forgotten. And then the third thing that I'm really pushing for is just generally more communication, transparency, future planning. The city right now is lacking in a lot of those areas. Our comprehensive plan is from 2017. We've had a pandemic and a very large shift in finances since then. And just generally the city does not communicate very well. And when they do, it's very last minute. And that means that we can't react to what is happening until it's already happened. And then how are we supposed to have a voice in those things? So those are kind of the three big things. Everything else that I'm backing are essentially ideas that people have told me, which are things like a larger focus on green space, or somebody the other day mentioned a dog park. Other people are mentioning some way to help focus on single family homes and how we can manage that, a focus on just housing in general around the city, and other things like that. My Facebook page has a lot of ideas. I share pretty much daily what people are saying. And that way other people can hear that others have the same concerns as them, and they can realize that they're not alone in what they're feeling and that we're all feeling this. So with that, that's kind of a broad overview. But if people have questions, I would be very happy to answer any questions. I try to leave you guys as much time as possible.
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Hi, Rebecca. I'm the program specialist for the Homeless Alliance here at Independent Living. My first question, data from Genesee County shows that the leading cause of homelessness includes economic hardship, eviction, and lack of affordable housing. How do you envision the city supporting residents who may not qualify for DSS services, but still need a safe place to stay during extreme weather?
So a couple of things. I think that we need to be more, we need to think more in advance of how we can prevent things rather than react to things, and the city reacts more than they prevent. And I think that is a lack of future planning. So I think we need to think about that more long-term. And then for buildings such as the Ellicott Station, that is a potential place that a lot of people could live, but the city, I think, mismanaged a lot of the back end of a lot of that, and that is a future planning thing that has fallen through and could be a great resource for people who may not qualify for some kind of service but need some kind of housing there. In terms of actual helping people who are in that situation right now and need a place to live, I've talked to a couple of people who've been on a board looking at the warming shelter in the city. And I know that the current city council is very against it, despite saying privately that they are for it. So take that for what you will. All the reports I've heard essentially are that there is funding in place that does not cost taxpayer dollars, and that there's many groups that are willing to step forward and make this happen. And it would require almost nothing from the city other than approving it. And I think if people have ideas, whether it's housing or recreation or whatever it is, if people have ideas, the funding and the power to make it happen, the city should just back that, unless it's going to hurt somebody. And this sounds like it's something that would help people, not hurt people. So it's odd that the city wouldn't back that in the first place.
Thank you. With rents in Genesee County rising beyond the many residents with disabilities and fixed incomes can afford, and knowing that the lack of affordable housing is a lead cause of homelessness, what is your stance on zoning reforms that could help increase low-income housing options in Batavia?
I think, going back to my previous answer, as long as it is helping people and it's not going to hurt people long term, I think the city should be very open to doing whatever we need to do. As I mentioned in my opening speech, a lot of people are thinking of moving out of the city because stuff is becoming so expensive. And if the city can do anything to help mitigate that, whether it's a zoning reform or some other kind of program or bringing in groups, I think the city should do those sorts of things. But there seems to be an aggressive reluctance to do anything like that. I think we do need to make sure that we're balancing that, for example, we're not having all low income housing. I talked to a lot of elderly who are questioning, where is there an elderly building going up? We don't want to live in assisted living, but we just need a safe space for all of us as we age to live together in apartments or whatever. So I think as long as we're balancing those things, the city should be supporting whatever we need to do to make that happen.
And then the housing needs assessment highlights the need for more housing for people with disabilities, seniors, and those experiencing homelessness. What do you see the city playing in supporting inclusive housing development?
Kind of tied into my previous answer a little bit as well. I think, again, we just need to make sure that we're balancing that kind of housing. I know there's also a housing project going up by Narramore area or whatnot, and that's a different type of housing. So I think as long as we're hitting the different areas of housing needs, the city should just be supporting all of that. Again, as long as there is some kind of plan in place that's not going to drastically increase our taxes And there's either grants for it or other funding, or a private person's willing to build it, or even a public entity is willing to build it. If the funding is there, the city should be doing what they need to do to make sure that these projects can happen. And shouldn't be fighting these things. People put a lot of work into these things, and the city shouldn't be shutting them down because of somebody's agenda, higher up.
Thank you.
Thanks for the questions.
You say you want to balance between the city, balance between business and general population, which I think is a good idea. What about, the business support the city is currently doing, do you like and would you like to keep?
So I think just the general investment in downtown, I know tonight at 4:30, there is a presentation to go look at the second round of DRI, grant application at the city center. So I think investing in those kinds of things and pursuing that is fantastic. And I think the city should keep doing a lot of the things that they are doing, but you also can't forget that people live here and that the citizens need something to do, families need something to do. I talk to a lot of people who are very wary of what's going to happen with their grandchildren. Are there going to be good enough paying jobs here? What is there to do for their children and their grandchildren as a family unit? And so I think the city should keep doing a lot of what they're doing, but should just change their focus a little bit to start increasing those other things. We've seen a lot of annual events disappear over the past couple of years. One of the big examples is the July 4th park event has also gone away. And there are people willing to do some of the work to make that happen. I think more people need to help, and there needs to be more funding in other areas, not necessarily from the city. But the city could support these things more just to give people more to do. So I don't think it's taking away from the downtown investment. I think it's just refocusing and balancing on business and people and not just focusing on one or the other. Thank you. I'll be very happy to leave the hot seat early too.
Ran before.
Yeah.
What's different?
So I had ran twice in a row before, once for a ward seat and then one for at large 2 years in a row. And when you are running against people in power, it's very exhausting. It takes away a lot from your life. It is emotionally draining. It's a time suck. There's a lot of components to it. 2 years in a row. After 2 years, I needed to refocus on myself a little bit. I've since, as I said, started a doctorate. I'm almost done with that. I've done a lot of other things, bought a house, etc. So now that I've kind of focused on myself, I've recentered. I felt like something needed to happen this year. The entire city council is made up of one party. There's no diverse voices on it. And there's a lot of just head nodding. And I see this as a year where people are very upset at a lot of things in the city. And this is an opportunity for somebody to really step up and make a difference. And a lot of people supported me before. I lost by out of 7,600 votes. It was 4%, so it was very narrow. And I think there's a lot of excitement this year for a change in the city and for somebody to just hold a different opinion than head nodding on city council. And I will be that person. I've spoken up multiple times in the past. I have brought petitions that people have signed for various things, such as a city manager search for one back in 2020. And a lot of the things I have done has forced council as a citizen to make a change and to do something. Because the more public and loud you are, the harder it is for somebody to ignore it. And so with all of that backing, I think that this year being on council, people see that I will be able to do so much more and make a bigger difference.
You think you become a stronger candidate through your experiences running for office?
Have I become a stronger candidate? We'll find out. I will say that I don't think anybody could do this alone. I have an incredible team of people behind me, and they do so much work because I work full time on top of running, and running in a city of 15,000 is a lot of work. And I think that I have a very strong team with me, and they do a lot of great stuff, and that helps make me a better candidate. And then just the general support from the city that I've been getting from people around the city has been helping a lot too. So I don't know if I personally am a better candidate. I think I'm pretty much the same as I was 5 years ago. I don't really change. I think I'm pretty stagnant in that change in terms of like my positions or whatever. And that advocacy that I have is still there, but I think my team is very strong and there's a little more planning that we've been doing. So I think this time it's been stronger, and the, again, passion from people for changing the city has grown a lot this time too.
So when you win,
Yep.
are you gonna have the time to give to city council? You know, you have a team now
Yes.
helping you. You'll
Yep.
have the time to look into everything.
Yep. So once I win and I'm just working a regular job and I don't have to campaign on a daily basis and deal with trolls and fake profiles and people tearing me down online in terms of trying to discredit my campaign, and I can just focus on helping people and doing that job, yes, I will have more than enough time in order to do that. Right now, as a candidate, I think most candidates will tell you campaigning is far more work than working in the office itself, because you're convincing strangers that that they should vote for you. And when you're running against people that have been there for a decade, who hold a lot of power, you're also convincing people that they shouldn't just listen to the person in charge, that there's other voices. And that work is just so much. So I think, yes, once I'm in, and when I do win in 2 weeks from today, I will have more than enough.
So that was the last question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Tracy.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were here.
I'm here.
Check in. Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. Nobody said anything to me.
Okay.
Am I guys?
You are nice.
I saw. I know, we have no one else to check in. And I won't take that long. Hi, I'm Helen from Chains. I'm currently running for a board position in the town of Pembroke. That also includes people who live in the village of Courtview, because they can vote for town offices as well. A little bit about me is for 40 years, I was involved in opening over 25 group living situations in Erie and Chautauqua County. So I've dealt with every kind of town and village and city, in the city of Amherst, Jamestown, Dunkirk. I've dealt with a lot of different people. I've also done things like have to, and that wasn't always met with a lot of enthusiasm. Luckily, the state law supports that, and so it wasn't a difficult situation. Okay, why am I running? This is the third time I'm running for the board position in the town of Pembroke. And what happens is it's a 5-person board, one supervisor, and every 2 years, a little like grand voting, because whoever gets the 2 top people who get the most votes wins. I'm hoping I'll be one of those this year. The biggest thing that I have to do is really encourage the citizens of Pembroke and Courtview to communicate. I go to the town board meetings and I'm the only person there, until, of course, the assessments go up or the water doesn't come down the street, where especially this year with all the dry wells out by us, and the whole plan to bring water, town water through has been going on for 4 years, and I can understand why people are a little impatient with that. Luckily mine didn't. So I really, really believe that you have to make it in. I think today life is very, very busy and there's so many conflicting things going on in people's lives that if you don't invite them to be part of the process, they're not going to do it. You have to encourage them. The people I'm running against don't even put signs out or go door to door. I've seen one thing happen with the two people I'm running against in Pembroke. And we're getting closer to the date, that's for sure. So I really think that the whole board, as well as the supervisor, has been accustomed to just doing what they need to do. And I'm not saying what they're doing is wrong, but I think there should be more feedback. I think there should be more, getting feedback from people in terms of what those are important parts of being a citizen. I'm looking forward to learning more. Every time I go to a board meeting, I learn more about stuff. And I think that is really a great candidate who's able to say to you, I don't necessarily have the answers, but I want to listen and I want to learn and I want to hear what people have to say. And I think that's something that is lacking in the town of Pembroke, quite honestly. I got to bring up the housing thing. If there's something, and I worked with independent living in I think, is there a way for us to change the meanings around affordable housing? In Pembroke, if somebody says affordable housing, it's like a curse. Any kind of multifamily development going on, even the citizens are just opposed to it. And I don't know, I've lived in Pembroke since 1992. I'm pretty sure there are people who live there who need affordable housing. If you're the waitress at the local diner, or if you're working as a cashier somewhere, what are you making? $30,000, $40,000 a year? Your rent, even in Pembroke, is $1,200 a month. That's where I rent. Really, quite seriously. And just because it's out in the country doesn't mean that there aren't people out there. And I have that conversation with the board and the supervisor and say, you don't believe there's people in your town who could benefit from affordable housing? And they won't even say the words. They don't even say the words. And we all know that it doesn't matter where you are. There's a variety of people with a variety of needs. And it's up to the government, even local governments, to attend to those needs and try to make things better for people. And that's something that I find very, very important because it's what I did my whole life, is make things better for people. So I think that's really, that. The other things that I'm kind of interested in is Pembroke has got a town park, and it's used for a lot of things. And it's a really nice park. But recently they had a conflict with somebody who rented the park because they didn't have a document that outlined the agreement between the town and the people who were using the park. Those are kinds of systems things that you've got to have in place unless you want someone to stand in front of how they think the supervisor is trying to do stuff for his benefit. Well, he might have not intended that, but if you don't have something that's concrete, people are going to assume it's all about you. And that's a really important thing that people have been in this long enough working with a variety of people that what you say and how you act in a situation sends very specific messages. And you should be very careful how those messages are sent because people can assume all kinds of things that are going on. So that's what I'm interested in Pembroke is getting some more feedback, making change. The same people who have been in power. The only reason there was any change is the man became elderly and couldn't serve anymore. And the exact same people have been on the board the whole time I've been running. So I ran, this is my third time. So that's there. And even an example, they're so used to not having to address people. I had to ask them to speak up because they have side conversations during meetings that you can't hear from the audience. Well, I'm pretty sure when you're having a public, and it's one of those situations where I can bring some of my experience and background in the field to this situation and hopefully make it easier for the people in Pembroke and the village court of view to discuss. Questions? Yes.
Helen, you're sticking to your plan to run. This is your third time, you said, right?
Yes.
So, why do you feel that you make a breakthrough? Is it sort of like this idea of country?
If you, I was in Audubon Village, Audubon Corfu, and I had a table up, I was talking to people, and yes, some people would stop and talk, and some people would be like, "Hey, she's a Democrat. Oh no, stay away, stay away." So I'm sorry, that's what the impression you were given is that because you're a Democrat, I can't even talk to you. I can't even do anything until there's one party in town and you're not it. So I'm keep hoping that through name recognition, I'm going to trunk or treat. I mean, you talk to people and hopefully that. And I've been really active in getting out the vote and encouraging people to register to vote because I also believe that you can't just sit back and complain about things if you're not at least trying to learn how things go. All right, you have to learn some stuff because it's a complex situation. And if you talk about affordable housing and zoning, I'm pretty sure that the board members and the supervisor and their planning boards can change their zoning anytime they want. There really isn't. It's not something that's controlled by the state or the county might have some input. They have an Amazon warehouse built on 77 by the exchange. Okay. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but why can't there be attention to other things? Especially affordable housing, especially about figuring out a way to get the water to people so they haven't been without water since July. I think Pembroke might be able to find a way to increase their communication and get more information from their citizens. Except when things are bad, like assessments of water. They show up for the meetings for that, and I can understand that.
Just a question about, was there a new build in Pembroke that had to do with bringing more housing into the area, but it's not affordable?
Yes, there is, right on 77 there. And there keeps being discussions to have some kind of housing north of the thruway. And I, when I'm sitting in the meetings, the tone of voice that I hear from the people sitting up at that table tells me that they're afraid to even see what people think about that stuff. I've done some, affordable housing situations that was targeted for people with disabilities, but still in the neighborhood, most people don't discriminate against that. And it's very scary that people think just because you need affordable housing, there's something wrong with you. And that is clearly the message that affordable housing is bad and that we shouldn't have anything to do with it. They make that clear in their comments. Any other questions? Well, thank you, everybody. This was fun. Hey, just exciting for anybody over here that's a little older. I have a wonderful opportunity to be on the advisory board for the Office for the Aged. Some help with Medicare, because I think it's gonna be a big, huge mammoth change for next year. Those people down in that office are stupendous. They have a chart, they have good things going on. So that's my little side thing where I hopefully I can go over by 15 minutes. But please, please, please stop in there and get information. If your family members or friends do a really good job. Thanks, everybody.
Our next speaker is Debbie Worthington, the 21st out of
Hey, good day, almost, ditto to Helen. Welcome to Stafford. We have the same issues and some. So, wow, what a wow, because everybody thinks nobody else has the problems we have. We have water issues. My water district took 8 years. I have it now. They want, it's gonna be years before the county puts in a pipe. Let me back up first and introduce myself because I was so enthralled with color. I'm like, oh, good, I can just say ditto and I can be done. Kathy Worthington, I've lived in Stafford for 28 years. With my 28 years, I'm not really considered a Stafford person. I guess you have to be born there, but I'm there to stay, and the board's just gonna have to get used to that. So I'm there. This is also my 3rd time running. I think a major thing in Stafford is people need to get out and vote. Our voting is very, very low. But we've had it was like a hotel thing, and they've made them into apartments. So we do have that. We do have a beautiful park that they just revamped some things with our ARPA funds. We got the ARPA funds in 2021. Could have been done years ago. That was a little, what are we going to do with this money? Our meetings are not same thing. You can't hear them. We may have 5 or 6 town people show up. We do get more for the same reason, water, taxes going up. We're told we're going to have another public hearing for the tax cap to get changed. Of course, it's not till November 10th, so it's sort of after the voting. But maybe that's the only time they could do it. Who knows? Budgets are just crazy. Raises are handed out like Tic Tacs. If you ask me, not against raises, but you have to be within a budget sometimes. I want to bring accessibility. If I ask a board member a question, I sent 2 emails in September. I was finally told they will answer my questions when I come to a town board meeting. So they are not warm and fuzzy to go and talk to. No set hours. Don't obviously answer my emails anyways. I've been sort of known as the foil queen because yes, I do foil a lot of things, and that's mainly because you ask questions and they won't tell you. So at least with those, they have to tell you. I don't know, what else do I have?
You want to describe the FOIL process, what you mean by that?
Oh,
People
the
here might
FOIL.
not know.
Okay, the FOIL process is if you want some information such as, my biggest one usually is our financial report. If you want to know what the financial report or who's building a pole barn or something like that, You go in and you fill out a FOIL request, your name, address, exactly what you want them to tell you. And then they have 5 days to acknowledge that they got your FOIL request. And then they have up to 20 days to answer your FOIL request. Does anyone want to guess how long my FOIL request takes? 20 days. They could pass a financial report on Monday. I go in to get a copy on Wednesday, fill out the paper, wait 20 days. It's right there. So, we don't have open government, I really must say, in Stafford. The board, there's 4 members, well, there's 3 members that have been on for over 20 years. And 1 member, I'm running against him, and I think this will be his. So he was appointed, and then he ran, and now he's running again. So 7 years, I think he has. And then we have 1 seat that seems to sometimes be like a revolving seat. We have this gentleman that we have now for 2 years. I think he's going into his 2nd year. And then 1 before him was just 1 year. He didn't even attempt to rerun, which is a shame because he was great. And then we had another one that was on for 5 years. So they do not follow open meeting laws. We ask all the time. There's a couple other residents that get almost as frustrated as I do. But I think the main thing is people need to be aware. They need to just be aware and get out and vote, get involved. We need younger people. Stafford is an older community. We have a lot of older people, but we are getting a lot more younger people. So that is great. I've been in customer service, by the way, my whole life, from waitressing to the travel industry. I'm a small business owner. My business is in my home now. I semi-retired years ago. So I still work, but it's from my home. So I'm very accessible to people, and I listen. I won't shut you up. Any questions?
One of the big issues in Stafford, and I'm sure a lot of people in this room read about, is the building on the corner of 5 and 237 owned by Mr. Pontillo. What's your take on what's happening with that?
My take on that is we need a credible, ethical, and honest code and zoning person. I have been through that building. Sometimes I agree with Mr. Pontillo, sometimes I don't. Yes, the town has stonewalled him. I just really got involved with our town in 21 when I myself attempted to get a building to put up a pole. Everything has a process. I get it. Tell us what that process is. The whole process, not one step at a time. Took me 9 months to get a building for a pole. And that's when I started getting involved. And the more involved I got, the more I saw, the more I'm like, are you kidding? And now my taxes have gone from 89 cents per thousand to 185, and they're suggesting it go to 202 this year. People have got to. I have a household budget. My income doesn't go up every year. You adjust. You don't just keep buying and spending. You adjust. So back to Mr. Pontillo, code and zoning. We have paid more in lawyers' fees. Our lawyers' fees this year were budgeted at 19,000, and we're at 111,000. And we're not done, because now we not only have the Pontillo code and zoning issue. Apparently, there are some code violations with Carolina Eastern Crocker. Although I asked if there were any, what the, I FOIL requested, what the complaints were and the allegations, and was told there were none. Well, now we've paid $9,000 in lawyer's fees for something involving code and zoning. There, so I'd say code and zoning
Yeah.
needs to be adjusted. Thank you.
Steve Hawley has recently been speaking out against solar fields. Do farmers have the right to use their land in the way that they wish to do it, put up solar fields, often on unproductive land, to get a steady income coming in?
In Stafford, we have a solar law that they put together years ago, again, before I really got involved, and I did read the solar law. And solar can go into our town in the industrial park area. And we have an industrial park, and one has just gone to special use permit. It's right around the corner from me. It's going to be on 50 acres back by the railroad. That is on farmland, but that's in our industrial park. Now, if another farmer wants to put solar on their property and rent it out, we have you'd have to go according to our law. Now, I know if it's over 20 megawatt lots, that's where the state takes over and they can overrule our local law. But I feel anyone, farmer, me, the guy across the street, I think you should have a right to do what you want on your land, so long as it does not jeopardize your neighbor's property value, or obviously it's illegal, or if it damages, if it's proven to damage health issues, which I think is where the Eastern Carolina Crocker situation is at. It's fertilizer being sprayed all over the place. And it's close to in a residential area. But yes, I think if farmers want to put solar up, as long as they go by the law that Stafford instilled, I don't have a problem with that. You just gotta go by the Stafford law.
Appreciate you coming in. The next speaker is Eugene Jankowski.
Stand or what this is?
You don't have to, you can stand. Whatever you're comfortable.
I mean, I sat for many years and I'd rather stay mobile.
Okay, no problem.
Hello, my name is Eugene Jankowski Jr. I am currently on city council in Batavia, New York. I retired police lieutenant. I had 33 years of public service in the community. I know the streets very well. I patrolled them for 33 years. I know all the unique neighborhoods. I've helped many a person in the middle of the night with a dead battery on a mobility device, loaded it in my car and helped with other officers and got them home. So I know the problems that can cause, and I know and I like to be mobile myself. Also on city council in the past, like several years ago, council approved and I signed a resolution that any future project the city was involved in, we would have accessibility, universal accessibility would be a major concern. It includes in our parks, our buildings. Even so far as to the Cars building right now, they have a brand new apartments, kind of high end, and even those are mobility, universally accessible even there. Also the building on Ellicott Street, Severino's property that's being completed, that will also have the same. So any questions? Oh, by the way, I'm a lifelong Batavia resident. I don't know if I said that as well. So I have any questions you have, I'll be more than willing to answer.
What not to say right in?
On city council at large, the city of Batavia, which is where I'm presently at. Okay. Anything else? Yes, go ahead.
Data from Genesee County shows that the leading cause of homelessness include economic hardship, eviction, and lack of affordable housing. How do you envision the city supporting residents who may not qualify for DSS services, but still need a safe place to stay during extreme weather?
Extreme weather only or all the time? I mean, obviously, if you're homeless, you need a place to stay.
About Code Blue?
Okay,
I know that Genesee County has a really good program because I used it for 33 years. Many a person be stranded or be kicked out of their house for whatever reason, domestic issues or whatnot, and they had no place to go. So we would call a caseworker. Ironically enough, my sister ended up working there and she just retired from social services, one of the department heads there. So it kind of runs in our family. We've been volunteering all our lives and we help people all our lives. It's just something we do. So I think it's a good thing. And I like the Genesee County aspect of it. The volunteer aspect is a good idea, privately owned. However, as a former police officer, I have concerns with that. The concerns I have is who's vetting the volunteers? Where are they coming from? Because it's been my experience when someone is homeless and cold, they're very vulnerable and they're very, they could be easily victimized if they're not treated properly by professional staff. So I trust Genesee County. They've always been really good. If there are some that have complaints with that, if that is true, then I think they should address that with the county legislator and fix those problems. But I just have a concern about privately run organizations because my experience has shown that there has been abuses that may occur there. I would rather see it under a professional staff, professional trained people with a network of help options available, as in mental health, social services, and so on. So if you're cold for one night, you're probably going to need help for more than that. I think you're going to end up in county social services anyway. And I just prefer that over a volunteer service. However, I'm not against it. I just would have to really take a hard, close look at it and make sure there were checks and balances to protect people who are in need. Also, as far as apartments, we're looking at a multiple range of affordable housing. The Severino property stalled. That was going to be affordable housing that stalled recently, but it's now back being completed. So there's going to be 55 apartments there that'll be available for people. And double occupancy, that's 110 people that'll have a place to stay. Also, we're opening options and giving developers opportunities to build more housing, convert apartments. The Continental School of Beauty old building, that's going to be converted for apartments. And the downtown apartments are a little more higher end, but we're looking for all options.
With rents in Genesee County rising beyond many residents with disabilities and fixed incomes can afford, and knowing that the lack of affordable housing is the leading cause of homelessness, what is your stance on zoning reforms that could help increase low-income housing options in Batavia?
I'm all for it, and we do it now. We're looking at a zoning request for townhouses over on Noonan Drive, the old Bays Inn hotel. So they're putting in a request for a zoning change so they can put townhouses in and self-storage over there. So that's one of the options we're looking at right now. We referred that to the planning board. Everything has to go to the planning and developing committee first to make sure it doesn't conflict with any other plans that we have going on. But most of the time, they're usually pretty easily vetted, and then they come back to council and we vote. So I'm all for it. We've done it before. We'll do it again. It's a good project and it's needed. For example, we did it for the Severino properties on Ellicott Station. That had to be rezoned. So I'm good with that. Anything to do to help.
And then just one last question. The housing needs assessment highlights the need for more housing with people with disabilities, seniors, and those experiencing homelessness. What role do you see the city playing in supporting inclusive housing development?
Well, like I said, we signed that agreement or that resolution in the past that everything has to be universally acceptable. That's the main consideration. Matter of fact, we're doing Austin Park and Williams Park. Austin Park, we just got a state grant for. We're going to be converting all the child play area to more universally accessible area. And believe it or not, there are members of the community that have pushed back violently on that, and I don't understand it. I really don't. Maybe you can help me understand that, but I think it's a great idea, and I think we should do more of it. So anything we can do for housing, make it universally acceptable, it's part of our mantra now. We did this resolution several years ago, and we've been following it ever since.
Thank you.
Well, go ahead.
I have two questions. So you're talking about universal design, and several years ago, we had met with the people that were planning the Healthy Living Canvas, and we brought in an expert and we talked about universal design. and the building got created, and there's a major flaw in the building. So when you're going to exit the building, you would go out the door in front of you, and the button is on the right-hand side. You push that button. You go to the next door, and you have to go to the left wall to push a button, and then scoot back.
What building is this?
The Healthy Living Campus. We were talking about universal design.
Where is the healthy living? What? Okay, I'm sorry. I think of it
It's
as
the
one-
connection between the Y
Well,
and
it's,
medical.
that's not uncommon. That happened when they built City Hall. It was a very similar thing where the button, you couldn't get in the building. By the time you press the button, the doors would close, or there was a problem with that. The building's new, and I would think that somebody there, like Eric Fix, he just left the city employment. He was our assistant city manager, and I've worked with him. He's a great guy. So if it just was brought to his attention, I'm sure that's one of those design flaws that you don't know until the building's built, and then now people start using it. Now you start getting feedback. So I would think that's something that should be corrected.
Yeah, we've been advocating for months with them, and it's still not fixed.
Well, I have a meeting with Eric in a few weeks. I'll put that on my list. I have another thing the lady wanted me to talk to him about. So I'll ask him about that.
Just one other thing too. Years ago, the city signed a resolution to always have someone at the Genesee Region Advisory Council meeting that Independent Living runs. And we don't have any representation from the city to that meeting. And if you have anybody that understands disabilities or knows the ADA, it would be really great to have that representation to that committee.
You
As the
mean like a
resolution.
city council member, or are you talking like a city
Anyone-
staff member?
Anyone who would be in a position to then take information back to the group in order to address concerns.
The problem is that that's a great idea, and I'm sorry we missed it. We have a lot of people coming and going out of different committees, and then they retire out or they move away, and then it just never got filled. It probably got missed. So it sounds like, it should be very important committee to be on. And, if you could, before I leave, if you could just give me some information so that I can talk to the city manager tomorrow and we can get somebody on it. If nobody wants to do it, I'll volunteer myself. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Here we go. This is a tough question.
The Democratic candidate, we kind of called out city for lack of communication, a more balanced budget, balancing downtown and the community, actual families. What's your, how do you feel that the city is handling communication with the citizens and the budget?
I think we're very attentive to it. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't think that's true. Okay. As far as downtown for family orientated, just the other day I was down there for trick or treat. I even dressed up as a Knickerbocker, tried to channel my inner Joseph Ellicott, and had a tricorn on in my Fort Niagara, living history outfit on. And it was full of people. It was full of people. There was people protesting. There were people in the mall doing a fundraiser for pets, and there were kids trick or treating, and everybody got along fine. And Main Street was very busy. So the families seemed to enjoy it. As far as the tentativeness, every time I get a call, I respond, just like I did for 33 years. People call me all the time and I respond, whether it be a street light out because their neighborhood's dark or a sidewalk not in repair. We respond immediately. And then usually it gets followed up by somebody from Public Works to physically go down there and make contact with them. Where we have flawed a little bit, and I will admit, is the follow-up. In other words, they'll go and they'll take the complaint, and they'll go solve the problem. But then they don't come back and tell the person what happened, right? So that's a big, thing of mine. I did it as a police officer. I think we should be doing it as a city. I mentioned it to the city manager about a week ago, and she said she was going to try to impress that upon the department heads, that follow-up was very important, and that people want closure, right? You file a complaint against the neighbor for loud noise, the officer goes over there and then leaves, but then doesn't come back and tell the neighbor what they did and what's going on. So that's something we're working on. But as far as the communication, that's totally untrue. Everybody I know on council, they get a call, they respond. And if they don't respond, then usually I get a call because being a large council member, then I find out what the disconnect is. Sometimes council members just out of town on vacation, right? And they just didn't return the call. But we will get back to everyone that calls, and we will follow up, and we will answer their complaint and do the best we can to solve it.
In Texas, how do you feel the council has handled that?
Well, and when I came on council in 2013, the tax rate was $10.71 per thousand. The tax rate as of this year is $8.46 per thousand. And that includes adding $1 million to the tax levy because of inflationary costs. Police officers cost more, DPW people cost more, snowplows cost more. A fire truck that cost $900 several years ago is now $2.3 million in 3 to 4 years before it can even be delivered. It was, or 900,000, excuse me. The 900,000 is almost $1 million. Now it's like 2.2, and we're talking 3 to 4 years for delivery. So we've been putting money away. We've been cutting where we can, where we don't need anything. You know, we have certain things that were frills that we don't really need, but we're worried about sidewalks, streets, safe neighborhoods, downtown revitalization 2.0 for Ellicott Street corridor. That's grant money. The last time we did it, it was $10 million of state investment turned into additional $50 million of private investment. So that we expect the same for Ellicott Street if we get approved. So we're doing things like that to offset the tax burden, because the more grants we can get in. And then people argue about grants like that money comes from somewhere. Yeah, it came from all of us. We pay income tax every year. It goes all the way to Albany. And then do we see any of it back? Maybe occasionally. But we're using our arterial maintenance fees that the state pays us is like 1990 level. So they're paying us at a 1990 rate, and it's 2025. The rates totally changed. Gas is more expensive, equipment's more expensive, people are more expensive. So we're dealing with that with the state. We're trying to get more money back from that. They want us to maintain the highways, but then they don't want to pay us for it. So we're struggling with that too. So we're doing the best we can. And on top of that, we're still at the lowest tax rate we've been at in the last 10 years.
What's the water situation in the city of Batavia right now?
As in like the drought. We're still doing pretty good because we get our water from the wells over on Cedar Street as well as the creek. We're working on a new system now. We're exploring it to be able to treat our sewage and put it back into the creek, which we do now. But instead of putting it into the creek and let it flow towards Buffalo, we're looking at ways to inject it back into the aquifer so that it doesn't evaporate as fast and that we're not depleting the aquifer as much. So we'll take some out, we'll put some back in, and so it'll kind of stay somewhat level. That's our plan now to, look in the future. We had, things get surprised on us like this drought, like the COVID pandemic. It was tough because we had never, it was my first pandemic. Hopefully we'll do better on the second one. But we didn't know, and we were running around in a bunch of different directions, and we finally got together and figured it out. Same thing with the water. We're planning ahead, and then we're going to plan so that if this ever happens again, we'll have a plan for it. Like, injecting back into the aquifer is a safer alternative for that. Anything else? Go ahead.
I want to jump back into the housing situation.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier some apprehensions about private organizations assisting the homeless because of safety concerns.
Just for like this for the overnight type thing.
Okay,
Not
that's
the actual housing itself, but just like warming centers.
That's where I was
things like
going with it, about your stance on warming centers. Where do you think that approach should be taken then? Do you believe that they should be open if they vet their volunteers accordingly?
Well, what my experience has been, this is how it worked for me. 3 a.m, somebody's homeless, they need my help. I call social services, they give them a voucher, put them up in a local hotel, and then follow up with them the next day. I think if I'm a person in need, I'd rather do that than sleep in a chair overnight in somebody's back room of a church somewhere. I mean, that's just me. I'd rather have my own place. And that has been very effective. As far as the warming centers, if churches have done them for years, they've done them already. They didn't need our help to do it. They did it on their own. But there's also been problems with the Catholic Church is going through some issues right now. So when someone is vulnerable and they're homeless, I think that it's really easy for someone to take advantage of that. That's why I prefer professional, paid, trained staff with accountability and people paying attention to what's going on. Volunteers come and go, and then they get in trouble, and then they get sent down the road, and no one says anything because they don't want to admit that there was a volunteer and there was a trouble there. They don't want bad blood to come about of their warming center. So that's where my fear is, and I'm not talking from hypothetical, I'm talking from personal experience investigating these type of crimes. And it's disgusting when that happens. And so that's why I'm passionate about it.
The only thing I would say with that is you're correct with the safety concerns, but what I will say, at times, the emergency line isn't available. You call, and we've had people show up at 5 p.m. on a Friday during a snowstorm. No one's responding. You have
Did
to
you
wait
call the
hours.
police?
We can call the sheriff's department, but
So you can call the city police, we'll respond in minutes.
they will respond, but even they have sometimes trouble getting a hold of that DSS worker. Now, after that, you put them up for the one night. Now DSS goes in, and maybe that person is sanctioned for whatever reason. They're back on the street the next night
What would be
Without
sanctioned?
any-
Why would they be sanctioned?
for whatever reason. Sometimes, as of late, it's if they lost employment. DSS is now sanctioning people for losing employment up to 3 months worth of a sanction because they got fired from the job. So there's different things that can stop them from getting help. Now, these are things that, I'm only bringing it up because it's just things worth looking into to perfect the way that you want it to look. Because,
And that's something we could talk to the county about.
yeah,
But I know with dispatch, they have numbers of personal people's cell phone. My sister would get calls on her personal cell phone at Christmas time when we're all over at the house. And she would respond immediately or get somebody down there or do it herself.
and I agree, there are times when it does work, but I've seen the other side of it, the times when it doesn't work.
Well, if it doesn't, then anything to do to help. I mean, at that point, it's an emergency and the person needs help.
Okay.
Okay. That's our time.
All right.
Today.
Thank you, everyone. If you guys, if you need anything, our contact information's on the webpage, on the city page. We just put a new page in, cityofbataviany.gov. It's a new webpage. Check it out. And we can do a work request, or you can get a hold of myself or any council member. And we will definitely get right back in touch with you. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I find my way.
All right, our next speaker is here. Nicholas Ward is running for Batavia City Council.
What did you consider you stand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, everybody else is.
We all said.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll speak. I'm gonna start.
Okay, introduce yourself.
Okay. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Nick Lord. I'm running for Batavia City Council at large. A little bit about myself. I'm a father of 3, married, live in the city of Batavia. I grew up here, moved away in 2014, shortly after I graduated high school. And my wife and I decided to relocate here about 2 years ago. We lived in the Buffalo suburbs for quite a while. My wife worked for the VA, and I worked for various healthcare companies, formerly Kaleida Health and now Catholic Health. My day job is I'm a healthcare facilities director. I run Mount St. Mary's facilities, engineering and construction, as well as Lockport Memorial Hospital and all the clinics that Catholic Health has in Niagara County. On top of that, I also teach a few nights a week at ECC at North Campus, and then their newly opened Northlands Training Center. I teach heating, cooling, and facilities management as a part of the training program. As part of my day job as a healthcare facilities director, we're responsible for all the heating, cooling, steam generation so that we can do surgeries, snow removal, construction projects, things of that nature. I have a pretty good team, sizable team.
But being located where we are in Niagara Falls, which is where Mount St. Mary's is, and Lockport, I've got experience serving vulnerable populations, just given the location. Prior to that, when I worked for Kaleida, I spent some time at Buffalo General and Oshai Children's Hospital, so experience with the populations that they serve as well. So if elected to city council, I want to have a hands-on approach. Part of my role now is, detail-oriented, looking for things that are out of place, looking for ways that we can build things better. A big part of my job is making our facilities more ADA compliant, just because I have experience with that. Whenever you renovate a certain percentage of a hospital floor, you have to renovate the bathrooms as well, because a lot of our hospitals are older and were built before there was any regulations to that. So from a construction standpoint, pretty knowledgeable on that. So all those things like sidewalk width, whenever we have to retrofit something, it has to be, wide enough now to meet current regulations. So if elected to city council, like I mentioned, I want to have this hands-on approach, but given what I do, I believe I can apply it to city construction projects and the city as a whole for small improvements, such as widening sidewalks, which I know the city is already doing. But even simple things like replacing door hardware and making it more accessible, automatic openers or closers and stuff like that is cheap and easy fixes that we can do to make everything more accessible for everyone. Also want to review city projects from an accessibility standpoint. Again, that's my career. So from my lens, some folks that work in non-healthcare wouldn't be as knowledgeable in that. So I think I could bring that to the table as well. And we'll keep going here. A couple folks have asked my leadership style if elected to council. So one of the things, as I mentioned, I have 3 kids. And I look to them for a lot of decision making. Not that I let kids run everything, but they come into it with kind of an unbiased lens. My oldest is 7, my middle is 4, and my youngest is 7 months and some change. So my 7-year-old, actually, I run a lot of my decisions by. He's in what's called a blended classroom, which I'm sure didn't exist when a lot of us went to school. Definitely not my wife or I. And we had to get some knowledge on it when he started attending John Kennedy. But what a blended classroom is, to my understanding, is there's kids of all different abilities and backgrounds that are kind of in one classroom. And there's, I think, 5 or 6 teachers in there, and they all kind of prop each other up, which is good. But so my point of that is, from a 7-year-old's lens, when we talk at dinner about what he did for the day, he doesn't talk about anybody's differences within the class. He just talks to them by their name or what they did together. So my point is, regardless of that, that's how I plan to represent Batavians as a whole, regardless of your background, regardless of your ability. We're all friends and neighbors, so I want to apply that to my time on council. Some of the things that I do want to improve upon in the city that a couple people have mentioned, just kind of going door to door and getting a pulse on kind of where we're at, is communication between the city and the folks that live here. A lot of folks will ask questions or call the Department of Public Works or call the police and not get a response. And that's just not a lot of people. That's myself as well. So as a city resident, I've experienced that. So whether that be through email, phone, door to door, I want to make sure our city departments are following up with everybody in a timely and effective manner. Another big concern that folks have brought up is our budget, right? And that, it's tough because we're a small community in a small county, but make sure we maintain a balanced budget while also delivering for the needs of the city of Batavia. And one of the things that I stress is it's not always about cutting the budget or trying to save money, but we want to make sure that we deliver quality services to the folks that live here. So sometimes things do cost money, but if the community benefits from it, and perceives it as having quality, then we need to look into it or maintain it. And then the last thing, and I know this, I'm not sure how long the other folks talked, but what you get most from me on city council is my time. So I'm very personable. I'm out in the community. My kids and I, we spend our weekends picking up parks and getting our steps in. And my kids love it. They always compete who can kind of pick up more trash, which doesn't sound fun for kids, but they have a blast of it too. So my point is, if you see me out in the community, whether it be at a restaurant, or Tops, or out in my yard doing work, feel free to stop me. I love hearing about stories of old Batavia. My parents used to tell them. My grandparents used to tell them, and I've heard a bunch of different stories knocking on doors this election season of, this story used to be here. I grew up knowing this person, and I love to hear those stories. And I do it to my kids, and I'm sure they're sick of it. I know my 7-year-old is, and my wife will be soon. And my dad used to tell me these same stories of, oh, this person grew up here, this person grew up here. And at the time, I didn't, now that he's gone and now that I've moved back here, it's nice going to all these different places and hearing those stories over time of kind of how Batavia used to be. So my point is, my time's always available to anybody, whether I'm on city council or not. Come November 5th, day after the election, I'll wake up just the same, go to work, and help my friends and neighbor. But being on council just gives me a little bit more opportunity to help my neighborhoods out. And I'll leave the rest of this up to you, but before I go, or before we wrap up, I'd like to obviously answer your guys' questions. But I'd like to ask everybody in this room, what do you think one of the most important issues that faces the city right now is? And I'd like to leave with that and potentially start working on it, whether I make council or not.
Housing. Lack of affordable housing. We have, you probably talked with Todd on your way in, but there were 448 people that were homeless in the last federal fiscal year. The motels by the 90 are filled with people who are struggling. What would you do about housing and building housing and taking care of people who are experiencing homelessness?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Unfortunately, housing is a problem everywhere across the country. We're just not building enough units for what we need. A lot of that is regulation, kind of the not in my backyard attitude. And that's unfortunate, but we see it with rising housing costs, not only in Batavia and Genesee County, but in Buffalo and Rochester. And part of that is what's bringing folks from the Buffalo and Rochester area back to Batavia is housing affordability. So I don't want to say the only way, but one of the ways out of this is to build more housing. So entice developers to bring more available units online. And then obviously, supply and demand, the more housing you have, the affordability of it becomes greater because you have more of a supply of housing. So having that been said, we have new units going up. I'm sure, before we mentioned, we have the North Point Drive 30 single family homes that are going online, which will help out a little bit. And my understanding is the patio homes. And like I said, the only way out of it is to build more housing.
Related to housing is energy costs. Somebody gets into a house and they have to pay their utilities. There's new technologies that are lowering those costs. Landlords don't always take advantage of them because they leave all the costs to the tenant. What would you do to advocate for more efficient, heat pumps, hot water tank, heat pumps, more efficient utilities, so that which also help to lower the cost for the tenants and also improve the value of the property for the landlord?
Yeah, so that's interesting. In my role, I deal with that a lot as utility costs are increasing, and there is more of a conversion to electric. And we do it on a large scale, right? Like I heat millions of square feet worth of buildings, and our energy costs started. We were told this year by NYSEG and National Grid that they're going to raise 40% on the electric side. So to bring energy costs down, it's important that we utilize all different sources of energy that we have.
Natural gas is actually cheaper than electricity, as most of us know here. Unfortunately, there's a ban going into effect on new construction at the end of this year. But you can't rely on one single sole source of energy, especially in our climate. And I've seen this from a healthcare perspective. There is no other way to heat and condition large buildings or cook commercially than natural gas. It doesn't exist right now. And unfortunately, to pay for these grid upgrades that are required by the electrification, everyone's utility bills are going up. So I think that's why it's important that we have a mix of different energy sources, whether it be propane, natural gas, or electric, and give folks these options to have in their homes to diversify that cost.
Would it be less expensive for a city like Batavia to have its own electric utility? In Rochester, the suburb of Fairport, up near us, the village of Virgin, and Churchill, they all have their own electric utility and they have substantially cheaper rates.
Yeah, so I'd have to see a cost benefit analysis of that. I can't tell you off the cuff. It would be possible, but also where you run into issues is reliability. So that's kind of what you get from the big power distribution companies. Not that they're good or bad, but it would be worth looking into if there could be some cost savings there. Sure.
I'll just have one quick question. Data from Genesee County shows that the leading cause of homelessness include economic hardship, eviction, and lack of affordability. How do you envision the city supporting residents that may not qualify for DSS services but still need a safe place to stay during extreme weather?
Yeah, so again, that's one of those things, and I have this the Cold Night Cafe thing here in front of me, which looks pretty good. My understanding is the county has some services that are offered. So my experience, at least in the city of Buffalo, is the city of Buffalo PD work closely with county social services to find placement for these folks that need shelter. And then I would envision the city of Batavia Police, if there is someone that is homeless, would work with the county to get them either a room in one of these hotels that we have or somewhere safe where they would be out in the cold.
What about the people that do not qualify or have been sanctioned by DSS services?
Yeah, that would definitely be difficult. Again, I'd like to see the numbers on that to see how many there actually are, and if it is more than just a one-off problem, come up with an action plan between independent living and maybe the city or county resources to see what we can do.
Well, there's an entire steering committee that has brought this to the attention of the elected officials. So the steering committee is Oak Orchard and the First Presbyterian Church. They are not going to use any government money. They have trained staff in order to do this, but they received a lot of pushback. Are you in agreement that we should not have a cold night cafe and that the only option should be calling DSS? And before, one other thing about that, just because someone doesn't have the money for a place to stay does not equate with criminality, but we make people seek law enforcement because they don't have money.
No, absolutely. So I'm sure a lot of folks here are familiar, and I think they still exist. In Allentown and Buffalo is Friends of the Night, which they offer a lot of services. And it's not county or city sanctioned, kind of an independent organization that does something a little similar. They provide food as well. I used to live down the street from them, but and they were a good organization. So I want to say that everybody should have a place to go and warm up, right? But with this, it's not a bad idea. I'd like to see some more details on it. But from what I've done some research is some of these have time limits, right? So you come in, you kind of get warm, and you get a meal, you spend 4 hours there on a winter's night, and then you can come back. Again, I know that saying here the survey was fairly positive, and there were 448 clients that received homeless services during the last fiscal year. It's obviously not good that we have that many that receive those services, and we need to get that number down. And I think
of them are also children.
Sure, no, absolutely. My wife is from the New Orleans area, and one of the things that kind of puts you in perspective is seeing homeless children on the streets with their parents and tents. And, I had never seen that actually because of the services that we're fortunate here in New York to have. But, you know, you go to a state like New Orleans and a state like Louisiana, there are homeless children just living with their parents, and it's a shame. So, to get to the root of this is I'm not opposed, to this. And I know, you know, there's been a little bit of pushback. But it would be a collaborative effort between, Independent Living, First Presbyterian, like you said, other organizations in the city. So long as my concern is that there's qualified people there. Because I'd imagine it's a fairly vulnerable population that would need some additional services than just to warm up, and get a meal and kind of be on their way. So if this is, we'll say, an entry point to getting folks in the door and take them from just kind of wandering to the correct services that they need, so that they don't end up in the same situation, right? That's kind of the goal of this is the kind of stuff is a jumping off point. It's worth exploring.
All right, we have to wrap up.
Sure.
Thank you so much
Sorry.
for your time.
Yeah.
That's okay.
If anybody has any questions, my email address is in some of the articles that I was in. Feel free to reach out and we can discuss further. I'm happy to answer anybody's question. Thank you all.
So much for coming.
Thank you.
I just wanted to take a minute to address the number of people in the room that are staff. So we have to go until 3 o'clock and many of you are going to need a lunch. So if we could kind of have half of the people that need to take a lunch leave and then half stay, you know, we just want to make sure we have a nice group for everyone who's coming in as candidate to have an audience to speak with them. So if some of you need to leave and then if you can come back and give other people a chance. Yeah, just a second. Just a second. You're on your own about your lunch. You're good. You need a water? I know. You're all right. Oh, you're right up here.
Hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. You too.
And, you know, you're free to talk about your notes and then we'll ask some questions.
Oh, well, my name is Rick Richmond. I'm currently a councilman at large in the city of Batavia. This is my home. I've lived here all my life. I think Batavia is the best place to live in the world. I couldn't live anywhere else. I stayed here to help out the community. So anybody has some questions, why?
I have a question.
Yes,
So, Country Meadows is across the street from, Terry Hills.
right.
And they have a large community of elderly. I've knocked on many of the doors. Apparently, the city of Batavia is allowing them to run their water supply. So, like years ago, like few years, these elderly people are like, can't even almost afford their, their monthly bills because their water went from, $30 now to $150 because Cook Property is in charge of it.
Cook Property.
Which is very, very,
It's a corporation.
oh yeah,
And they own the property?
yeah, they own it.
They own the water lines on the property or are they city water?
Well, it was in the city. And now all of a sudden, the city allowed Cook to, get involved. I have knocked on, a lot of these elderly stores. I am a person that cares, so. And apparently they're getting away.
Well, I'm glad you brought that to my attention. So you can establish it's a private corporation. And you're saying that at one time, the city provided the water and they were the city water lines and they're no longer the city water lines. And I can look into it, but this is the first time I've heard of this. One of the things I think if you go by, you're going down 98, you got that apartment complex in the back. Men or something or other. Anyway, there's a road that goes to. I talked to one of the ladies in the tunnels because it's very bad and it's potholes. And I could see a concern. The manager was saying, well, it's the city's responsibility. It's not our responsibility to maintain that private driveway going through the back. But I can look into that for you. So before you leave, if you give me your name, your phone number, I certainly could look into that. And I could give you an answer what actually is going on. And from there, I can actually tell you what we can do legally.
But I mean, we have called, me and all these elderly people have called the city water, people, and they're like, oh, they can't do anything, because
Well,
they let them take care of it now.
that's got to be bumped up to the senior manager.
Okay.
And I could do that. So if you give me that information
Definitely.
before I leave, give me your name and your number,
Oh, I will.
we'll get back to you. And if you talk to, Councilman Jankowski, he'll tell you the same thing. We'll bump it up and get back to you. This is the first I ever. Yes.
Hi, data from Genesee County shows that the leading cause of homelessness include economic hardship, eviction, and lack of affordable housing. How do you envision the city supporting residents who may not qualify for DSS services, but still need a safe place to stay during extreme weather?
Extreme weather. Well, you are aware that it's against the law to be homeless in New York State. It's against the law. And a lot of it, and if you go through the city, and you see a lot of these people, they're homeless people. You assume they're homeless people. They might be pushing shopping carts. They might be hanging out. They might be going, taking everything out of a dumpster, throwing it on the ground and leaving it. Those people actually have a place to stay. It might be in a boarding house, it might be a room outside of town, it might be in a hotel. So they actually have a place to go. I think the problem is not so much they don't have a place to go, is that it's a mental health problem. And we've got no way to force them to go in their apartment. So now the county will always provide housing for people in bad weather, always.
Even the people that maybe not qualify for DSL
Well-
services?
Give me an example why they wouldn't be qualified.
Let's say they got sanctioned.
I don't understand not saying.
So sometimes if someone loses their job or they don't follow through with something DSS tells them to do, DSS will provide them with a certain time frame or until compliance sanction, and they will not provide them with the housing services anymore.
So they'd be given the opportunity to do this and they chose not to, is that what you're saying?
No,
They
They-
came through
they had-
hardships.
they had a job, but for whatever reason, they were terminated from the job. BSS makes a phone call over. Based on what that employer says, such and such just wasn't working out. He couldn't perform at his job. Now you're sanctioned between 30 to 90 days worth of a sanction, which includes housing, which includes SNAP benefits, which includes, any cash assistance. So that's been a thing, and I brought the question up to Mr. Jankowski earlier, and he was unaware of that as well.
And since the county handles that, I'm not aware of it. I do know in certain situations, and I've talked to some of these people, because I go to McDonald's in the morning at the east side. And we get a lot of elderly people in there and a lot of people with disabilities in there, and they're in there with their walkers and their canes. You get a chance to talk to these people. And as again, it's something we could look into, but the city has no departments like that. That's the county and the state that handles that, not the city.
If there are organizations in the community that are not-for-profits, if they're churches or, you know, if they're just into helping people, why would the city be opposed to having a cool night cafe where some people who train staff meet with them, they offer them a warm beverage, they offer them a place to stay. So then the person does not have to get involved with law enforcement or DSS. They have a roof over their head when it's 32 or below. Why would the city be opposed to that?
Well, as far as the city being opposed to that, again, we go back to the county provides that at this time.
And if they don't want to, like what the people are just saying right here, if they don't want to choose that option of contacting law enforcement and then being put in a hotel, if they don't want that option, is there a problem with having a second option?
There are, they can go through the Salvation Army.
No, the Salvation Army doesn't do it anymore.
They don't do that anymore?
No, they don't. They're out of that business.
I wasn't aware of that.
With rents in Genesee County rising beyond many residents with disabilities and fixed incomes can afford, and knowing that the lack of affordable housing is the leading cause of homelessness, what is your stance on zoning reforms that could help increase low-income housing options in Batavia?
Well, right now, we're in part of our plan is there's certain sections of the city where we can rezone. A good Swan Street, we could rezone. But it's a matter of rezoning to get these places up. And if we can get private people to come in and we can get grant money to put such things in, then we'll do it. It's a matter of getting somebody interested in coming in and doing it. Now, we've got all kinds of things going on where we've got people coming into the city. They're going through, they're looking at the Brisbane mansion, they're looking at the properties on Liberty Street, the Ward Plow. There's many places that if you rezone, you could put housing on it.
I just have a quick question based on something you said earlier, said it's against the law to be homeless in New York State.
That's right.
Do you think that homeless people should be put in jail because they broke the law?
No. No, I don't. And they have opportunities out there should they choose to use them. But I think the biggest problem with homeless people, I think it's a mental illness problem. And
Well,
there's no help from the state. We don't get any help from the state for it. The state mandates everything and drops the tax on the counties and cities.
Yeah, it's mental health is not the leading cause of homelessness. It's not. The leading cause of homelessness is a financial situation. Either someone evicted them because they didn't pay the rent, or their primary partner that they were with asked them to leave. Parents kicked them out. Children kick their parents out. It has to do with the financial situation that people are facing. It's not, the leading cause is not mental illness, and it's not drug addiction, and it's not criminal history.
The homeless that I've come in contact with personally, that I've actually talked to, stopped to talk to. Do you have a place to stay? Yes. Well, it's in the rooming house, or it's here, or it's there. Why don't you go there? I want to. I want to be out here. I want to do what I want to do. Now, how would you call that?
I call that their right.
So they have a right to be outside and they have a right to be homeless. So should we force them into an institution? Should we force them?
No, that's why I was asking you if you thought that homeless people should be put in jail, because you said it's breaking the law.
It is, it's illegal. And I know it's an odd thing to say, but it's illegal.
So wouldn't a warming shelter stop that then, so that they have a place to go at night and they're not on the street?
You have hotel rooms that are available for them should they choose to use it in the county.
But the county doesn't always put them up in
Yeah.
that hotel room.
That goes back to what we're talking about with the sanctions. If they're sanctioned, they're not eligible for any of that. The rooming houses are not free. Some people are offered a bus ticket, but you're asking people to leave their familiar surroundings to go to a city where they know nothing when they get there.
They could go into a rooming house. A rooming house is not $385, and that's only what social services will offer to pay for that. So now where do they come up with a difference when it's $750 for a tiny room? They can't pay that difference. And if they are working and they're paying for a hotel, then all of their money is going into a hotel because it's $500 a week to stay in that place, so they can't get ahead. There's no happy medium for them to.
Hate to cut this great conversation off, but we're out of time. It's been a wonderful.
So thank you for all your questions.
I just wanted, I'd like to hear your answer. Would you be in favor of a warming center? Privately run by churches or organizations? In the right situation?
Yes, so does it meet the health codes? Yes, does it meet the zoning codes? Is there a proper amount of bathrooms available for them? And does that include that?
Have you gone to Orleans County and seen theirs? Because theirs
No, I live
work
in
great.
Genesee County. I've never
So
been.
we want to mimic what Orleans County has here in Genesee County, which has worked beautifully.
I'm sorry, really to interrupt, but we've got on this time now. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow, my costume was on.
Oh, there we go.
Go to lunch. But I'm taking this comfy chair.
That class is moving on.
It's also when you see the holiday, get back in. Yeah.
I got it for you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
It looks like you have yourselves here. Here, you take my questions.
This is Mike from the news. He's working for Video News Service today. Who is next?
Bob,
Oh, yeah, you walk in with those people.
Those people.
Those people.
the county legislature. Going for the county legislature.
It's county person.
That helps us out. It helps the board.
There you go. No.
Go ahead.
Bob, who's running for county legislature? Either sit or stand, whatever you prefer.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've seen a few people here. Spoke here quite a few times. I just want to put out, here's my position, some of these issues. I had a personal experience in my family with handicap. My dad totally lost his vision when he was 55 years old due to an incompetent surgery. Changed his whole life over, of course. It was tough. And he was a very active guy. But he didn't ask anybody for any favors. He did the best he could. He lived to be 85, 86 years old. Never would let my mother use a handicap spot. He says, there's people there in this, I can walk. You know, and I used to see it all the time. He'd be walking some distance, my mom and the guy, he had his cane and everything. And then I'd see somebody that had no business parking in a handicap spot. Well, there's a good spot to park. So, you know, I kind of have a tough time with some of that. There seems to be a trend now that if you're going to a store or anything, just park right in front of the doorway and leave your four-way flashers on. You block the ramp for nobody. A lot of people may not be in a wheelchair, but they need ramps. They can't step up on the curb or senior citizens. No consideration, just no consideration. I don't know when this came about, but it seems to be common. And I've stopped and said to people, "Is your car broke down? You need some help? I can haul you a truck if you want." And they, "Oh, well, I'll just be here." Well, there's a lot of opportunities out there for volunteer groups. And, you know, I just made the comments the other room. I says, the good Lord lets us get up every morning, but it's our job to figure out why. And, you know, if everyone just does one good thing for something, just pitch in and help someone. The economics, let's keep people in their own homes. Institutions and senior centers, a lot of the stuff, they all cost quite a bit of money. And Whereas a lot of people can stay in their own home and someone will just help out, maybe mow the lawn once in a while. Shovel their sidewalk. You know, I grew up and I shoveled the neighbor's sidewalk. So it was just, my dad didn't have to tell me, he just got out there and shoveled the sidewalk. Today, people don't even, in the city of Batavia, we have probably 60% of our sidewalks now are totally handicapped accessible. People don't shovel their sidewalks. It's just, well, it's not on my sidewalk, what the city do. Well, the city can't do them all the time. And it's the property owner's responsibility to shovel the sidewalk. Another one of my pet peeves, and I think everybody here know, people park their cars over the sidewalk. They leave them parked over the sidewalk all night. I have a lady that has a motorized chair. She rides it every day, twice a day, takes her little puppy for a ride. And she has to go out around this guy. One of my neighbors, he's been doing this for 15 years now. Parks over the sidewalk on weekends, blocks the sidewalk. Poor lady has to go on the street, go around the car, come back up the driveway. You know, we need to start getting a grip on things and start doing what's important. You know, I would tell you, speak up, contact your elected official when you see a problem like this. Pitch in, help out. You know, some people, I've been in other states where people are a little more compassionate. You know, people are tolerant. Someone walks into a restaurant and they have a companion animal or a service dog. No, the person needs it. They need help. They don't need sarcastic comments like I would need here. I need like dogs. I've seen that personally. I think we've all seen this sort of thing. So my personal experience, I'm a disabled American veteran. Luckily, it's just a minor thing. But the VA system is very good at handling handicap. The doors all work good. They have ramps every place. They have people that help. They have people just run out and help people. You know, and they're really pretty good at it. Best they can. I think we can all learn some lessons and help people. You know, there's a lot of handicapped people. There's a lot of jobs they could do. And they're neglected. They're turned down. It's wrong. So those are my personal positions. And I'm a big supporter of everything you people do here. You know, I've talked that time many times for the years. Help with things whenever I can. So anyway, take any questions.
You had mentioned earlier, that, you know, that you thought that the good Lord, we should just be helping people, right? And so one of the big things that we have going on here is a debate about a warming center. And so I'm wondering, you know, the Cold Night Cafe is a group of people concerned about individuals that are experiencing homelessness during 32 degrees or below when it's very cold out. And you know, what's your stance about the Cold Night Cafe opening in the city and being able to be available for people?
Was this going to open at the church?
That's one of the possible locations, yes.
Well, I commend any church, religious group, or any volunteer organization that does anything. I mean, if you do it on your own, that's the best way to do it. Get the government involved. If you want to kill something, get the government involved. You know, I mean, and governments, and I'm not going to ridicule government. Government has to move slow. Government was designed to move slow, to make wise decisions, to give the people a chance for it, to have input, to have public hearings, to see what the majority of the people want. We represent the majority of the people. I've been on city council 13 years. I've seen issues, good ideas get killed. I've seen other issues get passed. You know, it's but if the church wants, thank you.
So you're not opposed to it at all?
Why would I be opposed? I mean,
well,
you know,
some of the city council members talked to the church and told them that zoning laws would not allow them to do that, and that they would be.
I can't speak for other city council members. I didn't know of any such meetings. I wasn't invited to them.
We have the zoning laws, they're very specific, there for a reason, we have planning. So if it meets all the criteria, it shouldn't have been a problem. I do know I have talked to social services. They say that anyone that's homeless that goes down there says, I need a place to stay, they will put them up, they will get a room. And I do know we have a problem here. Like Orleans County sends their people down to Batavia. They don't have rooms. They only have the one motel. So they'll send them down with a voucher for 2.5 weeks. And that's why we see a lot of people north of the thruway walking towards the stores and over the bridge and all. So I guess they're gonna build another hotel or something up there. Did I answer everything?
You answered my
Oh,
questions.
yeah.
Any other questions?
Why do you want to go from, city council to county legislature?
Well, I grew up on South Jackson Street in the 5th Ward. I've owned our own home for like 53 years, Union Street, 4th Ward. So it's the 9th district, it's the 2 wards. There was an opportunity to be outgoing legislator and that he wasn't going to run again. And I said, well, I think I could contribute a lot. We have another young man running for council at large. So it's nice to get some younger people involved. You know, one of the problems we have today, look around, there's no young people involved in anything. You know, and service groups are losing volunteers. I was talking to a guy the other day and he said in his group, he's the youngest guy there, 50 years old. You know, and it's time to move on. And you can stay in a position too long. Elected officials, I think, you just run out of new ideas. You're not, maybe not attuned to what's going on in the community. You spend all your time doing things, but not things that keep you abreast of the situation. So I think I could do some good, you know. I know the district very well. I've seen a lot of changes in the district. But I periodically drive down the south side. One of the things I brought up at the meeting, our last meeting, was they're putting all this new playground equipment in Austin Park. I said, I don't want to see the old stuff get ripped out and sold for 10 cents a pound. We have some serviceable equipment. Kibbe Park has nothing. Nothing. You know, I was at a lady's house. I hadn't seen her in several years the other day. And she says, look at this. The children have nothing here. There's, I think, a slide or a swing set or something. They took out everything. They took out the tennis courts. They made it a parking lot. So I was assured that they would look into the possibility of moving some of this equipment.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to come in. You guys have a busy day today too.
Yeah, we do. We got a full slate.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. We're scheduled. Thanks. We're scheduled for that. Okay. Yeah. You have more people coming. You'll get more coming. No, that's okay. Why would you tell the church that it's taking? Right, right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I don't want to say right. No, thank you. No. Did she say that? Yeah. Here she comes. Yeah. So you can either sit or stand, whatever you prefer. Right up there. Our next speaker is here, Brenda Post, who's running for Alex County Council. Alexander, okay, extraordinary. I don't blame. So thank you for correcting me. You say either sit or stand, whatever you prefer.
I'll stand, I'm nervous, so I'll stand.
First of all, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to be here and meet with you today. My name is Brenda Post. I'm running for the Alexander Town Board, along with Sarah Cole, who will be meeting in a few minutes, and Colette Garino running for the town clerk position. We're excited to offer the Alexander voters a choice on the ballot for the first time in, I want to say, decades and decades. It's always been one party running unopposed. This year we have a full ballot, so we're very excited about that. Even if we should lose, we've offered the voters an option, which we think is incredibly important. My entire adult life, I've worked with individuals who have physical, mental, and/or addiction challenges. I started off as a secretary at the New York State School Facility for 16 years. I went to the New York State Veterans Home and worked with the elderly population, again in a secretarial role, but assisted with transporting and things like that. At age 42, my lifelong dream came true when I became a substance abuse counselor. And I worked at what was called JACASA, Genesee Council on Alcoholism and Substance Abuse. I was there for 4 years. I went to Attica Prison. I ran the drug and alcohol program in Attica for 7 years out of the 9 years. I retired, was bored out of my mind. I talked to the dog so much he would leave the room. I knew I couldn't stay retired. And I went back to JACASA. They took me back. It's now called UConnect Care. A year ago, January, I retired my credentialing, so I'm not a counselor any longer, but I still continue to work in the compliance department. So with policies and procedures and reviewing patient charts to make sure staff is completing their paperwork in a timely manner and correctly and that type of thing. I did want to say if I'm elected, I want to ensure that the town is in compliance with Americans with Disabilities Act. I believe everyone has the right to access all public buildings and participate in all public events. That's all about that I'm prepared to say, so I'm more than happy to take any questions you might have.
What are some of the issues that Alexander is facing?
Oh my goodness.
Major ones.
The major issues I think come down to whether or not they had just built a new town building to store the equipment and the salt barn, that type of thing. And they're talking about expanding that. Another issue we had is that our electric bill spiked for a number of months and no one could figure out why that was. It was happening at the town board. I never did hear a resolution on that, but that was concerning. And I know that the Teamsters, which are I think it's all men that work for the highway department, their contract is up right now. And I'm not privy to that because they go into executive session. So I don't know how that plays out.
Are taxes an issue?
Oh, sure. Just about everybody I've talked to, especially if they're on a fixed income, people are very concerned about their taxes. I think there's some places where they're higher, but again, we want to hold the line and give people the most bang for their buck, what they're paying for. But yeah, I think that's kind of universal that everybody's concerned about their taxes. Yeah.
The first thing you said was that for the first time in decades, there's a choice.
Correct.
So it's been Republican dominated.
Absolutely.
So do you feel there's community wants to change when you're talking to people?
I believe that there are enough people that want change or would like to see an option. I guess my perception is that sometimes when I go to the board meetings, and I go to the majority of them over the last couple of years, is that everybody's on the same page. Everybody goes the same way, whatever the topic of discussion is. And I think that sometimes when I'm sitting there listening, I would like to see it maybe take just a little bit of a slight turn, that maybe there's some issues that they didn't address that I see as a concern. So I think it's a good idea to have discussions and not always have everybody follow along the same path for every single issue, that it's just always gonna get voted through or voted down. Because everybody's on the same page. And I think that, there's multiple sides to many issues. So I think that's important. And I've had a lot of people, surprisingly, I would tell people I'm running for office and they'd be like, oh, great, Brenda, that's wonderful. And I'd say, as a Democrat, and they go, oh. And it's like, well, I'm not gonna hide it. I'm not keeping it a secret. But what they have said to me is, well, I vote for the person, not the party. I hope that's true. And so a lot of people have reached out to me and asked for some of my signs that are Republican, which was a nice compliment. And I was very happy that they did that. Yes, sir.
Brian, I'm gonna ask you a question, because Alexander, it's one of the more rural areas, a
Yes.
smaller town.
Yes.
If I'm driving through, what do you want me to think of your town as I leave it? Like, what's the biggest takeaway? As I'm driving through Alexander, what impression do you want to leave on me?
I hope you don't focus on the smell of manure. That's what I drove to get here. They're out there spraying. I want you to think it's a nice rural community. We value our farmers. We're a huge farming community. We need them. We rely on them. And they're also big employers. I want you to think that we're just nice people that care about our fellow citizens in the community, that we try to keep things neat and clean. And, but I'm sure there's always issues that we're not meeting. Again, we were just talking as we were prepping, we don't have an accessible door, and I'm forgetting his name, Todd.
Yes.
Todd was explaining some of the possible, potential solutions we could come up with that wouldn't be as expensive as the $10,000, electronic door. So yeah, I think, most people don't think too much about Alexander. We have the steam engine show. We have the best pizza place in the whole wide world, right in downtown Alexander. We're small town, regular people.
What's the name of it?
J Dubs.
Okay.
Oh yeah, best wings, best pizza. So we have good food and good.
Can I write that down?
Oh, you won't be
Never been there?
Oh, you have. You won't be disappointed.
I feel surprised driving through on my way to like Attica Beyond, so I might have to stop there.
We also have Baldwin's, which is a new place, and we're excited. I mean, we had no food places, and now we're up to 3 if you count the deli. So things are improving in Alexander. Yeah, we don't have a lot of business. The town is currently doing like a town-wide audit. They've got a committee of like 20 people. And they're trying to find out from people in the community how they want the village, or not the village, how they want the town to go in the next 10 years. I'm not sure if the people in the community want to see more businesses. I don't know about that, but if they do, then I would support that. If they want to keep it just small and local, I would support that too.
I mean, local is pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone knows each other. You kind of grew up
We
there.
do.
You know the needs of others.
Oh, we do.
Do they still have the top grocery? No.
That's
That's Attica. It's right on that line. So I get confused.
It's Attica, but it's really, I think, in the town of
It's
Alexander.
right on that line. After you
Yeah.
go past the school on the opposite side.
Yeah,
going
thank
out.
goodness it's still there. That's a huge need. But it is really nice that we have the Corner Deli and Baldwin's that carry, Baldwin's actually has meat.
Oh, yeah.
They have their own butchered meat there.
Where is that located?
That's on Route 20. As soon as you go up the Cloverleaf to head towards Darien.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
It used to be an old gas station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you could double the tour guide.
I could. I lived there most of my life. My grandfather lived there. My grandfather was the town judge after he retired from Attica prison. Yep. Pretty much. Lived in Attica for 11 years, but so don't hold that against me.
Oh, hey.
Well, go to J Dubs, you won't be disappointed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you. You gotta start there.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Yeah. I guess, 4 hour wait lunch. I would say for everybody. Yeah, give everybody. And homelessness questions coming up every one, right?
Although they didn't ask us this way.
No, well, no, that really gives, I guess maybe more the concern of the city.
Well,
Yeah.
we kind of, because we serve more in the Batavia area, like Alexander,
Yeah.
generally, we may have a few out from there, but not too many.
Yeah.
And then we also understand where housing development lies in Alexander too. There's not much development there that's, going on. It's mainly, it's rural areas, more farmland. So we understand the concept, whereas in Batavia, there are room for some development. There are some, there's some projects that were started that weren't finished. So that's kind of like where it comes in. So I try to ask them accordingly to see, kind of like.
It's a good point, though. I mean, nobody's 100%, never get 100% agreement on anything.
Right.
But it's interesting, like you mentioned, there were people would like to live in Alexander, may not necessarily want to trust with adults. Right. They like. Yes. A lot of towns struggle with it.
We have our next speaker
Yes.
here.
And that's the way.
Sarah Cole is also running for Alexander.
It's a nice.
Tell you a little bit about yourself and then
So
we'll.
I'm very conscious of what it's like, how it's received by the residents there.
Thank you so much for having me here. It feels great to be included. I know Brenda, you got to hear from her as well, also running for town council in Alexander. And we're both excited to be part of a very exciting year. Usually Alexander elections are uncontested. And this year we have 2 candidates on every open position, which I think further communicates our commitment to having choices in Alexander and really seeing what the people want. Me personally, I grew up in Darien, so right next door to Alexander. I went away for a few years to Rochester and worked there after graduating from RIT. I have purposefully pursued a remote career so that I could move back to Alexander because I care about the community, the people there, and my own family that's there. So I'm truly proud of the whole region, not just Alexander. I work professionally in a web development marketing type role for a large financial institution. And actually, funny enough, some of my responsibilities are to make sure the website is ADA compliant. So it was additionally exciting to get an invite today. I know that folks probably have a number of questions, but I wanted to start out just talking a little about why I wanted to run for office. So I've gone to a lot of our town board meetings over the years, and funny enough, one of the first issues that came up that motivated me to get involved in local government was the proposed closure of our transfer station. And it wouldn't sound like a big issue to most people, but having a transfer station for residents is a critical piece of infrastructure. And not only that, it really was like a community center for us. So I was inspired by other people in the community rallying around keeping the transfer station. And initially that was, what got me going to meetings and seeing how things were run and, who was doing what. Over time, I've gotten to know people a little better and how things get done. And I feel that there are opportunities for new skill sets to bring new things to Alexander. Myself being kind of a different generation with different skill sets than most, I feel I have some very critical skills that I can lend, my neighbors and family and friends in Alexander by running. So, to me, it's about giving to the community. Grew up in 4-H and Girl Scouts, and it's all about dedicating your hands, head, heart, and health. And I feel that to this day as a, adult working in the world and living in my community. So, yeah. Would love to take questions from the group.
Your family.
Yes, my parents still live in the area. A few of my siblings live on the East Coast, one in New York State, and a couple out of state. So
We asked Brenda, like, some of the things that are going on in Alexander, some of the issues that are you impressed with some of the things that are going on there? And
yeah,
be addressed?
I think one of the kind of most contentious issues right now is surrounding our water districts. One of the ideas that has been discussed is, we can only do so much going forward, but larger decisions like water districts should probably be put up to the voters to decide. I know that's how Darien did things years ago when I was growing up. And I think that's a very fair way to handle those large decisions. We've had smaller issues come up, like, increases in power bills, concerns about solar panels. I'm actually on the zoning board, so I voted on some of the windmill projects and things like that. But I think one of the more exciting projects that's currently happening is our comprehensive plan review. So our current comprehensive plan is legally old enough to drink. It's over 21 years old. And so we're refreshing that with a whole host of different stakeholders from the community. I am representing the zoning board on that. And we've had a lot of really exciting conversations about the future of Alexander and how we can tap into the plans for the county at large and, how we contribute to the betterment of the whole region. So that's one of the more positive things that we've been discussing. Yeah, of course. Other thoughts and questions from the group?
Is there much homelessness in the area of Alexander?
Alexander being fairly rural, I wouldn't say that there is a lot of homelessness, but we do have maybe uniquely farm workers type situations that are a traditional housing. Yeah. Any other questions from the group that I can address or answer? Yeah, of course. Yes.
I asked this question earlier. There's a Steve Hawley's been pushing back against solar farms on farmland. And what is your take on that? Do farmers have the right to use their land to have that? Often they use unproductive land to put the solar panels on, and it gives them steady income. So if there's a wet season, dry season, everything evens out. They have that money coming in to help keep them going, especially for small farms. What's your opinion of that?
Yeah, I think there are a couple important things in there. So our Alexander's current stance allows for 2 contiguous parcels, each at 10 acres for solar panels. So a landowner could have essentially 20 acres of solar for their use, and that's within our laws, and I think that's very acceptable. Additionally, I think that you're right. Farmers need opportunities to generate additional income when the land itself is not able to be farmed or there's bad weather events. I think there's some other options that folks have brought up and that are fairly interesting aside from just solar panels and wind turbines. the additional option that has been discussed is, land conservatories. So you can sell not the land itself, rights to preserve wildlife and, nature in general, essentially saying, I won't log this, or maybe even as simple as I won't turn this into a housing development. And the conservatories do pay farmers for that. So I think to the wider kind of theme of my candidacy, I want to bring together many ideas to find solutions to problems. And so I don't think it's as simple as yes, solar panels, no solar panels, but thinking a little outside of the box to make sure we've got a solution that fits the community and the individuals. Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Tossing you down. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're welcome to stay.
I know I got, they told me I had to go.
No, that's all right. We talk about it.
You don't have, well, okay, yeah.
As long as you're not happy.
Oh, what? No, no.
Your next speaker is here, Michael Clinton is running for county legislature in Darien, Pembroke area. So you can either sit or stand, whatever you prefer.
I'll try to sit first. Okay.
So you can introduce yourself.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. This is my first time here, so I didn't know how it all works. Well, first thing I want to thank.
Open up to questions.
Okay, I want to thank Independent Living for having this event, because it is rare in today's environment for people to get together and have a discussion. You know, so much of politics is social media and just sniping and memes instead of having thoughtful discussions. And already by coming here today, you know, I learned a lot talking to Todd, you know, about the services offered here and just the larger environment. I'll introduce myself. My name is Michael Blitz, and I'm running for Genesee County Legislature to represent Pembroke, Darien, and Cortland in the Genesee County Legislature. I've lived in Genesee County for 22 years with my wife and daughter. It is a fantastic place to live. Why am I running? Because most races in Genesee County are uncontested. And you know, the current legislator, Gordy, is fantastic. He's doing a great job. But last cycle, there were no contested races for the Genesee County Legislature. It doesn't mean the county legislature is doing terrible. It just means there's not really an opportunity to have a discussion and to talk about issues and have a functioning, you know, democracy. So, and you know, full disclosure, I am the Democratic chair of Genesee County. And it's my job to try and get people to run for office and, you know, make a give and take. So, you know, why not run myself? It's actually not that hard to get on the ballot. It's a lot harder to win. But I wanted to give voters a choice. And there are some issues I care about. You know, I learned a lot today. You know, housing is an issue. You know, the taxes are an issue. Property taxes, they are insane. I'm a Democrat. I still don't like paying taxes. I want them used for a good cause and used efficiently. Some of the issues that I've been talking to voters,
The stamp project, I don't know if you're familiar with that in Alabama, we spent a lot of money on that. And at some point you have to say, stop throwing good money after bad. That doesn't mean GCEDC Economic Development is a terrible agency. It does a lot of good. It's kept a lot of businesses here. I was able to volunteer with the Glow with Your Hands event a few weeks ago. It was fantastic. Like, people say kids are terrible. Kids were awesome at that event. It was so well run, so organized. It was great. But when you have an organization like Economic Development, where they make more money on more tax breaks they give out, you know, the residential taxpayer is at the brink. And we give whatever businesses whatever they want, basically. Does GCEDC ever say no? So if I were to be elected, I would ask our representative on the GCEDC board some of those questions. My wife says I need a new hobby. I love meetings. I love participating in government. I'm a former Darien Town Board member. I'm a current Darien Zoning Board of Appeals member, and I'm also on the Corfu Library. I just enjoy participating, being involved in doing things. You can see I could talk all day, but do you guys have questions? I mean, I'm supposed to answer questions, right? Yes. Or just not do a 3-hour sermon or something.
Water is always a big topic for the county. And how do you see things?
Oh, I got a lot of opinions on water. I am lucky enough to have city water. In my district in Darien was put in probably 25 years ago. Did you know residents of Pembroke, Darien, and Corfu pay more per gallon than anyone else in Genesee County? The water rates have not been equalized. So people in Pembroke and Darien and Corfu pay more per gallon because Monroe County Water buys the water from Erie County and then sells it. There's no reason why we pay more per gallon. Genesee County made a lot of, if you go to the library and look at all of the water plans since 1980, there were promises to Darien and Pembroke to make a system that would connect the whole county. It's never been done because the need in the central part, since the county made a deal with the city of Batavia to take over their water and to supply farms, they need water from Monroe County. So they're trying to build out the infrastructure. And it costs a lot of money to do that. I have a lot of opinions on one or two more things. One thing, luckily we have a governor that tries to help us as much as she can. You know, it's funny, if the governor acted like the president and was retribution to areas that didn't vote for her, Genesee County would be in a lot of trouble. You look at the town of Bethany, they were having a drought and she's given them a lot of money. But some people don't want water. When I was on the town board in Darien, there was a referendum on whether to extend water all over the town. And as a board member, I thought it was a good idea. A lot of people didn't because it's really expensive to put in city water. But we put it to a vote of the people and they decided they didn't want a town-wide water district. We move on. So did I answer your question? I hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think you'll bring to the legislature?
The legislature, I read the minutes and I look at the things, there's not a lot of discussion. It's majority. It's all Republicans. There's not a Democrat on the board. I think I would bring experience and a different perspective and asking questions. You know, I have a government, I served on the Darien Town Board. I've been involved with the planning board, the zoning board, with the library. I'm involved in the community, but I think I would ask questions. Some things I would do differently. I would live stream the event, live stream the sessions, maybe have a Saturday session. I did see they've moved the time back to start later, which is nice because, you know, before it was earlier in the afternoon and it's harder for people to attend.
There's been a lot of questions today about affordable housing. What would you do as a county legislature to expand affordable housing or try to make it, you know, so people could live?
Yeah, we need to build more housing, you know, and Genesee County is actually doing a good job. They have a smart growth plan that they put out and try and focus growth in certain areas, you know, that have the infrastructure to build it. It just costs money, but we need to do it. You know, what I don't want is Genesee County to be overrun with subdivisions or houses because we do love the rural nature. But then on the other hand, we do need new housing stock. I was looking at information from Todd. We have an aging housing stock, and I love what independent living is doing to help make some of the current housing, you know, updated. You know, so some grants to keep people in the houses they are, while also facilitating new construction where it's appropriate.
So while we're talking about housing, what are your thoughts on a warming center in Genesee County?
It's a great idea. I know when I was on the Darien Town Board, when it got cold, we opened up Town Hall. Unfortunately, a lot of people it wasn't really used. So part of it, I think, is getting the word out, you know, so people can attend, you know, and get the resources they need.
Did you have an issue with that because it was like volunteer based for people to be there when it needed to be?
No, I was
open?
there with the clerk during one of the, I forgot which storm, one of the storms where we implemented that and nobody came, but we were happy to be there. You know, we're elected to serve, you know, and obviously can't be 24 hours a day, but I do think, I get there's some resistance to putting something in your name. People are always afraid of change, and it's very hard to do, but it is something that's needed.
Yeah, and I know we would like it, you know, where Code Blue can step in and help that. So good to know you're part of that. Okay.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No matter who you vote for, just come out and vote. And if you ever want to run for office, do it. There's no secret code or handshake you need to get involved. There's room for everybody. Thank you. Again, you guys doing this, it's fantastic, you know, and you know, there's not many opportunities for us to talk, you know, that aren't. Yeah. So thank you for what you're doing.
It's recorded too, so you can show people later on.
Oh, no.
Send them the link.
I can send it to my sister in New Jersey.
There you go.
I'll sit down for a minute, I guess.
Is there next one? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna see people that are in. I don't know.
I didn't mean that. You too, thanks.
Where's James? Jim is-
You know, the news and they don't have the people that we used to have. Yeah, they did. That was good. You gotta have one there.
In here?
Yes.
What was that number?
Oh, that was Sarah.
Oh.
It's your choice to stand or sit. Okay, our next speaker's here, John Borrell. Introduce yourself and then open it up for.
Yes. That's some questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Appreciate Independent Living for hosting this event. I think it's unbelievable because we don't have many chances to get out there other than knocking door to door, but to get out in this type of forum. A little bit about myself. My name is John Borelli. I grew up in Leroy. I went to high school here in Batavia, graduated from Notre Dame High School. And then I went on to the University of Dayton, graduated with a bachelor's in industrial engineering. I was just talking to Todd back there and he asked me why I wanted to get involved. First of all, I'm running for county legislator, District 9, Wards 4 and 5. If you're not familiar with the wards in particular, Wards 4 is basically south of Main or north of Main Street between Oak Street and the track. And Wards 5 is like South Main to Pearl, to the backside of the south side of the Batavia, Jackson Street, Kitty Park area. So I'm in a unique situation. I live in Ward 4 and I work in Ward 5.
So if elected, every decision I'm part of affects me one way or the other. Why I got into this and why I decided to run. Years ago, when I was in high school, my father was the Genesee County Legislative Representative Leroy for many years, up until his death. And he always, I saw the passion he gave, I saw the enthusiasm that he gave, and I saw the vision that he had, where he didn't exclude anyone. He was there for everybody at all the time. It was an impressive thing for a young guy at 18, 19 years old that thought he knew everything in the world, but then soon realized he didn't. But he wanted me to get involved in politics, and I always promised him I would. And years go by, you get married, you have kids, you try to establish a career. Well, here I am, I find myself in this unique situation where in this day and age where you could sit home, you could sit in your restaurants or your bowling alleys or wherever you want to be and complain, or you could say, I'm going to take the gloves off, I'm going to get my hands dirty, and I want to help. Anybody that knows me or has known me knows that I've been involved in many things, a lot to do with the youth and not only in our area, but I was involved in a youth organization in Rochester for many years. But more importantly, I'm blessed to have two daughters. My oldest has two children, so I have two grandsons, 4 and 1. And my youngest is expecting her first one in April. So when I saw my oldest grandson being born, it was the epiphany of my life where I said, I don't want this kid to leave Batavia. I don't want him to have a reason to leave Genesee County. I want him to stay here. I want to give him something where he can say, this is where I want to live. So that's the reason at this point in time, I decided to jump into the ring and get involved. Another part of it is, for many years, I was privileged and blessed to coach football here at Notre Dame High School for many, 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 many years. And it's nothing more exciting and makes me proud is when you go somewhere and you run into a kid I coached in 2001 or 2000, and he still calls you coach, and then you get caught up. How you doing? He's married. He's successful. He's doing well. He's living in Arizona. This one's living in Florida. This one's living in South Carolina. Nobody's living around here anymore. I'm very proud of what they've become. I'm very happy for them, and I think they're doing outstanding things in their communities. But where are these people going? Why don't they want to be here and be involved? So that's why I'm throwing myself into this. I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm very hands-on, very involved type of person, so it's not going to just sit back. I like to digest the information as best I can and formulate an opinion to the best of my opinion, best of my ability, excuse me. But more importantly, I want to help everyone. All right, we have District 9 wards 4 and 5, but also what we do affects the county. In a little way, it involves with the city. We have to be hand in hand with each other a little bit. So that's why I'm trying to do this. That's why I think I would be a valuable asset to this community, because I have the passion, I have the drive, and you know I have not served on any political position prior to this, but I think now's the right time where we don't need a politician. I think now's the time we need somebody to come in with an open mind and somebody that cares. So that's why I'm doing this. Thank you for your time. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
So are you aware of the current homeless issue around Genesee County?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What are your thoughts on a cold night cafe or a warming center in the county?
Well, I think we definitely need one. Where I live, a homeless person lives behind my house, has been. I feel horrible. One of the misunderstandings, I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, everybody thinks they're drug addicts or troublemakers. It's not. It's an economic situation, I think. I might be wrong. Correct me if I am.
No, you're correct.
If they had $1 million in their pocket, I don't think they'd want to be homeless. But they're proud. They're proud people. All right. So it's nothing wrong when I go down there and I put something there for him when he goes there at the end of the night. He has something to eat. He doesn't know it's me. He doesn't eat. And I'm not gonna tell you where it is. We figure it out.
Well, you're welcome to tell them to come in.
But You know, there's been a few times where I've seen the police come to shoot them down. I think the police do an outstanding job. But I always say it's under control. And let them eat, not bothering. But we do need those warming shelters. All right, we need cooling shelters too, as the elderly. That's just as bad. There's a lot of scuttlebutt in the city about a warming shelter possibly in a church here. And then once you start throwing out places where you want to have it, then it comes zoning rules, this issue, that issue, it's all why we can't. Let's change that. Let's get rid of that mentality and start saying, how can we? Let's get it done. They're human beings and they deserve to be treated like that and they deserve to have that opportunity. There's always funding issues, there's always that. There's so many hurdles, but let's stop saying I can't figure out how we can. But I think we should have more of them. And because obviously transportation is usually a problem. So yeah, you might have one on this side of town, but it doesn't help on the other side of town. You know, my oldest daughter here lives here in Batavia, she's scared to go to one of those clothing drop-off boxes in front of one of the churches because there's somebody living inside. I said, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Right. So, again, to your answer to your question, yes.
And what about low income housing? So like more of it, like what are your thoughts on it?
That's a great, we need a lot more low income housing. And I'm not talking, look what they're charging for apartments in the Vegas. Atrocious.
Yeah.
If somebody has a $2,400 a month apartment, which they just listed on Main Street, I don't know why you're living in an apartment, but that's their choice and that's fine. But we need more lower income housing. We need to be able to give these people there. Look at these young married couples. They can't afford a house. They can't afford a house. How can they afford a house? They're going to have to move into an apartment they can afford at the same time, saving up their money to buy a home someday, to start their dreams like we all did. So yes to that question. We definitely need more housing available, and not slum apartments.
Right.
All right. Again, they're human and deserve to be treated like human, and they work hard, just as hard as any of us do. Anything else? Yes, sir.
One candidate said earlier, he was concerned about the volunteer organizations and the vetting and the training of the people involved. What's your opinion on that?
That's a good question. I could volunteer at a hospital, right? I can't do brain surgery. Even if I tried to, I wouldn't want to, right? But like these warming shelters and stuff, they were going to have trained staff. So there comes a time when a volunteer who is the backbone of society needs to get people around, needs to get the help. The person needs to get the help that they need at the time from training people. And I think there's enough resources out there to do that and to get them. But I wouldn't, if anybody wanted to volunteer in a place I ran, I would welcome that with open arms.
Well, we would hope that these would be paid volunteers. So there is current staff, in Orleans County, there's a warming center out there and they are all paid. So that's what we would like to, same thing here.
In the past, the warming centers fell apart when it was only volunteers because the volunteers were not confident enough in what they would face. So now the way it's being run through Oak Orchard and what's proposed here in Genesee County is also through Oak Orchard, and it is trained, paid, very well paid staff.
Well, that's even better. But they would be trained, they're not just paid. So once they're trained, I think they deserve that resource to have a trained staff. Like I said, I can volunteer. I would willingly want to be trained, not just walk in. I mean, I'm getting trash as good as anybody, but it'd be one-on-one with somebody. I think I would need some training. So, but yes, no. It's an issue. It's a big issue in this community and everywhere.
What about taxes? How are you?
No tax.
Probably.
Somebody write that down. No, I mean, taxes are always a hot line. If we said my tax money is going to here and you like that idea, people are like, all right, get my money's worth my tax, but I want tax money's going to this, and they're like, we don't need that. I don't have any kids, I don't need that park, I don't need that Genesee County Parkway out there to be mowed so nice all the time. I don't need it. And then, but taxes are taxes, they're always gonna happen, but what we can do is control them. We could look for other revenue sources if possible.
Like a dog park.
Love it, but I'm sure this community would love it too.
Yeah.
But anything but everything costs money. So you have to be fiscally smart when you're making these decisions. And you can't think it's just about you. You have to think about what's needed for the community. And that is something that would be needed.
Other questions? I'd like to thank you for coming today.
Thank you
You're
very
very
much.
understanding.
Sitting bus for last. Are you ready for this? None.
I'm just not a attorney, no, we need to make sure.
We are.
You got time to slice it up.
No, we have four.
How come I'm on an island by myself?
I don't know.
You want me to come over there with you?
I'll come over there. Just move around. I'm using the chairs to make the room look full.
Fun is gonna be in the.
Oh. Oh, it's over there. Oh, I'm like, really? That'd be like this.
If you haven't guessed yet, Kristen is our housing coordinator.
See half the
Working with the
face.
448 people on.
See half the face. Still see half the face.
Yeah.
You go to that chair, you
Yeah.
go to that chair, it might be okay. Why, have you guys not been nice in here, or what's going on?
We did a couple.
We just don't understand why people are opposed to a cold night cafe. It's really hard for us to understand.
Gonna put your wife on the spot.
Of what?
Gonna put your wife on the spot. What are you thinking? We could keep calling the police department and you can keep picking them up and
I don't even know what the agenda is there, but speaking of.
you what?
He doesn't have the agenda.
Well, we're talking about a warming center in Genesee County.
Oh. Um. I thought there was a cold blue center over at the fallen shoulder. Wasn't that used to be?
There used to be a cold night cafe at one of the churches.
Speakers here. I'd like to welcome Lori Mancuso. You can sit, stand, whatever you're most comfortable with.
All right, great.
Introduce yourself and.
Yeah, I came early, so they found, oh, like two people.
Yes,
So,
and then you can take one.
all right. Is everybody okay? Need to stretch anything? Yeah, exercise. Let's take you through some stretching here. Well, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it so much. I'm especially thankful to Kathy DeMar for helping us get these other five of us in. It's great that so many people are interested in being in front of you and wanting to share who they are with you and then hearing from you what's important to you. And that's really kind of where I want to focus when we get to that part of our conversation together. So I'm running for county legislator, Genesee County legislator in the District 5 area, which is the town or village of Leroy. And I have Lynn Beluccio sitting on my shoulder telling me the proper pronunciation of Leroy is Leroy. My daughter was in cheerleading years ago. I coached the youth, and it was always Leroy because you want to be that strong voice for the Knights, right? But so I might be correcting that here and there as we have this conversation today. I've never been in public office before.
This is my first time running. And I'll get through my bio in just a bit in terms of what I've been doing my whole life, but I've been in the private sector most of my life. And believe me, being in the private sector has its own politics associated with it. So even though it's not a public, we do have politics involved in companies as well. Just to start there briefly, I spent the early part of my career, really about 3/4 of my career with Eastman Kodak Company. So hopefully you've heard of Eastman Kodak Company. At the time when I began working right out of college, it's one of the premier places to work. So many opportunities, tens of thousands of Rochesterians worked for Eastman Kodak Company. As you can imagine, there's so many opportunities in a company like that. I began my career as a systems analyst. And from that, moved into procurement, which was my customer, the systems development side. And from that, I went into business development, finance, and finished my career with Kodak in research and development. I was the operations manager for a facility over on Lake Avenue. And some of my work as operations manager was relocating people from facilities that we were vacating. So a lot of needs for our disabled people with disabilities in our work environment, and we had many. We needed to make sure that the places they were going to accommodated them in the best way possible. So some of that required building out ramps and things to make sure that we were meeting the needs of that community when I was in that position. And from Kodak, I went to medical device manufacturing. And the medical device manufacturer I went to was Orthoclinical Diagnostics, which had previously been a Kodak company. The medical analytical part of Kodak spun off years before that, and they became Orthoclinical Diagnostics. Still had a footprint at Kodak Park, still do today, but we made, and they still make analytical slides and the analyzers that give you the results of the tests that you provide with your blood, urine, any kind of fluid. So the operation I ran there was a 24/7 operation. I had 3 of the sites within the manufacturing group that I led over the course of my 6 years there with them. And then from there, I went to Johnson & Johnson, Cornelia, Georgia, making sutures. So again, a 24/7 operation, absorbable sutures, where that was my plant there. And again, just a very dynamic environment. As you can imagine, J&J is a sought after company. Their credo is to really meet the needs of their employees first and foremost. And you see a lot of that in how they did accommodate and make sure that they were forward thinking in terms of making sure that the needs of all employees were met there. So that's the end of my work career. Maybe at the end, I'll ask you how old you think I am. Maybe not. So 4 years ago, I left J&J and came home. My grandson was born. Miracle Man would call him because we didn't actually think he was going to be possible, but he was. So any of you with grandchildren really know how big that is. So I'm retired, and I've been using my time taking care of my grandson. Don't ever schedule anything on my grandson day. And I got involved with town and village politics. So I wanted to learn what was going on locally to me when I was working in the private sector. I was looking for a job. Really, I knew things were being taken care of. I really didn't get too involved in what was happening in the town and village, but this gave me the opportunity to do that. I had the time and the energy to do that, so I did. And what I learned as a part of this, engaging with the village in particular, with their comprehensive plan, I was lucky to be a part of their steering committee, is that there was disconnection with the county legislature. Didn't feel listened to, and the Republican committee felt it was time for a change in the seat for that particular law. So I threw my hat in the ring for that. And so here I am today in the final lap. I got through the primary in June, and this is the final lap to the general election. So I'm very happy to be here and speaking with all of you about what comes next. But first, beginning this whole process was the petitioning and signing. You have to get 100 signatures on a petition to get on the ballot for the primary. Don't like going door to door. Did it with Girl Scout cookies and chocolate bars when my kids were young, but didn't like doing it. But what I learned by initiating that process in getting into be a candidate in the primary, is the value of talking one-on-one with people directly. So I was going door to door meeting them, and that's carried on through my whole campaign. Through the primary, I go door to door. With people working at home, it's kind of, you gotta be a little bit intuitive about what you're seeing in terms of, is the dog in the window, or because you don't want to wake up people if they're home for the day, but you learn a lot going through that. And what I did learn from people in particular about issues regarding warming centers, as an example, for care for the homeless. They didn't feel that they were getting any traction with the county government in terms of hearing their case for bringing on more warming centers in the community. And with the homeless, I think the stat I saw, since pre-pandemic to now, roughly it's gone up about 25% between sheltered and unsheltered people requiring support. So I think that's an area that we have an opportunity. And I also think that getting out what services are offered is truly critical. When I said that we didn't hear from our legislator, we heard nothing from our legislator, which they didn't hear anything from us. So we need to bridge that communication gap, because of what I heard from people is that they have needs and they don't know what services are available to them. All the towns have Facebook sites. I go on our Leroy Then and Now. I have a need for my mother to get to an appointment. Who can I call? What can I do? I have a child with a disability that needs some support. Who can I contact? What can I do? So there needs to be better ways you can look for the right things to make those needs. And what I've also learned when I jumped into the primary, just wanting to learn more about county government, is and Gordy can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's 26 county departments, and there's 3 standing committees that the legislators play a role in, and they're also chaired by a legislator. Those 3 being Human Services, Public Services, and Ways and Means. And the Human Services one is one that I see a direct connection with what you do here. Departments in there include the mental health, social services, Office of the Aging is an example. So I'd like to see how we're connected. Are we connected? So those are some questions I have for you. Are there things that we can do better to connect better together? That's definitely on my mind. And when I look at the website, the pillars of advocacy, housing assistance, and the transitioning from hospital, nursing homes back home, keeping people in their homes. I mean, that's a very important part of what you do here. And I see that overlap with these departments as well. So I want to see how we can partner better than we may have done in the past. So really, for me, one of my top priorities is communication and engagement. The work is the work. Do the work, but it's important to engage our communities and make sure that they're a part of what we bring to the legislature. So more than anything for me today, I want to learn from you. What matters to you? What are some of the challenges that you have here that we can work together on? And that's really my main message. How can we work together to serve the communities that we have, and hopefully, in my case, may have the opportunity to represent in the future. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions you have, and feel free. Yes.
Thank you for doing the research about who we are and what we offer. That's much appreciated. One of the things we haven't talked about yet today is something that is affecting many, many people who are trying to stay living in their homes. It's a statewide program called Consumer Directed Personal Care Assistant. In the past, independent living was a fiduciary intermediary. And so we were paying aides that would go into people's homes, can be your relative or your friend. And recently, the government, New York State government, changed the entire contract situation and hired a company out of Georgia called PPL to take this over. So the fiduciary intermediaries went away, including our hand in that. And it has been a living nightmare for the people who are trying to stay in their homes and have aides. There's technology involved for logging in and out of your shifts. And there are deadlines that are unreasonable to make about your aide has to have their own physical done. And those physicals have to be put into a database. And you're talking about people, the employer of record is actually the person in the house. So they're the person who has to approve the shift. If that person in the home can't approve the shift, their aide doesn't get paid. And if they don't get paid long enough, they stop coming. So you're jeopardizing people's lives.
Sure.
Have you heard of that situation?
I have, and I'll tell you first how I learned about it, and then another tangent to that. To prepare, I listened to YouTube's, and that was actually one of the questions on one of the other candidates a year or so ago, to Steve Holly, actually. But I also have a neighbor who's in that system, so she works with folks in their homes. She's very frustrated with what she has to deal with, what her client has to deal with. She's ready to pull her hair out about that. And why we're sending money out of our state when we could be employing people to do this work locally, frustrates the heck out of me. Why would we do that? Whose decision was it to make that change that is hurting the employment of our local area, actually, and the support that those people are getting. So I want to dive into that. I'm surprised that a change hasn't been made. You can save that question for 40 minutes as well. But it would be my preference to do what we can to bring that back to the local, to bring it to an organization like this to manage that for the clients that need it.
You touched a little bit on housing, and one of our big things here is we're trying to get a warming center in Genesee County.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great idea. Actually, Julie Arson, yeah, she and I had a really good conversation about that when they interviewed me for their endorsement. So I definitely think that's something that we should bring forward. It makes total sense to do that. Why would you keep people safe and warm in an environment where they can't survive outside? I mean, there's no room in a shelter to take them in, but yeah, I totally.
And what are your thoughts on building more lower income housing for people that can't afford the rents that are out there now, which are more than most people's mortgages?
Yeah, so that's an area that I want to dive into with the Economic Development Center, because I know that they're involved in a lot of development for those people aging, but have they focused at all on that other subset of population that need the housing, the lower income group? So I would poke at that with them, because they do have the resources, the money perhaps to put into something like that. And that's where I'd see a partnership with us and Economic Development Center to do some investment.
So it's something that you would be for?
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely a gap that we have.
Yeah, and there's a possibility that people with a Section 8 voucher that they utilize that help to pay towards their rent, that could be going away. So now you're going to have people that have no subsidy value. They may have a limited reason why they can't work. So they need to have something that they can afford to live in.
Yeah, so there's a lot of facets to that, right? Yes. So what makes a person homeless? Is it the job loss? Is it mental health? So we need to really, it's a pretty complex thing, but something that I think we need to work on as a community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the stamp project in Alabama? Should the county still be investing in that project?
So actually, my husband and I went on a field trip out there this summer. I dragged them along. We drove out to Alabama, had lunch in Oakville, great place. I can't remember the name, but what I noticed about the stamp site is that it's vacant for the most part. Edwards Manufacturing is going to be starting operations very soon. The client they serve, semiconductor industry, that looks to be a growing area. So I think that's a done deal. Data center is a little bit on the fence for me. I think with all the solar development going on, to channel power into that area in particular for the needs of an entity like that is very concerning. and the population around there. So Chad's the legislator out there. I don't want to speak for Chad too much or poke at Chad. He knows the dynamics in that area better than I. But I do see that there are some challenges to that, especially being so close to the reservation and what they honor in their space as well, and what the impacts of this development will have on them. So I very much can resonate, their position resonates with me. So I think, there is an opportunity there, but maybe the types of opportunities need to be looked at a little differently. Thanks.
Yeah.
Other questions?
That's one of them.
I was just going to ask, should low income housing be concentrated or spread through the community?
I can see advantages to both. If it's in a location that's centralized, I think that you could focus support there better than mingling it amongst the rest of the community. Going through the comprehensive plan for the village of Leroy, for example, we engage the community in terms of what kind of housing we want to see developed and where it should be developed. So we highlighted where those development areas specifically should be for the type of housing. So I hope that communities are looking that far ahead and doing that. But I can see work both ways, and I see it's really up to the villages and the towns to define that and what we can do to support it, how they think that should go within their community. Okay, well, thank you very much. Okay. Manages to come in. The rest of this team. Whether you want to sit or stand. Okay. Our next speakers here, Shannon Bartholomew, running for Alexander Town Clerk. So just give a little introduction about yourself and then we can open up for questions.
All right, perfect. Thank you for having me today. I would like to take the opportunity to introduce myself as the town clerk of Alexander. My name is Shannon Bartholomew. Along with my husband and our two children, we are proud residents for Alexander for the past 5 years. You will often find us at the fields or the auditorium as our children are fully immersed into school life through various sports and clubs. We were drawn to the town primarily because of the strong sense of community that Alexander exemplifies. In February 2025, I was appointed by the town board to be the town clerk for Alexander with the intent to run for the election in November. It would be an honor to continue to serve as the Alexander town clerk. I am dedicated to making the office a model of transparency and accessibility. Some key points that I would like to focus on are modernizing and organizing our records, setting standard operating procedures, and getting back to our residents in a timely manner. It is important to make the town hall an open and welcoming environment by greeting our residents and answering the phone with a smile and patiently guiding them through licensing, permits, and other document requests. The town clerk responsibilities heavily rely on effective communication and ensuring that agendas, notices, and minutes and other critical information is posted promptly and clearly so that all residents know when and where decisions are being made. Since my appointment by the town board, I have had the privilege of taking on several critical functions for the town, including Registrar of Vital Statistics, designated as the local issuing agent for the DEC, and the elections custodian. Upon taking office, my first goal was to ensure that the clerk's office was running to the highest level of transparency. Therefore, I immediately adopted new cash management policies and procedures to create checks and balances. I am focusing on advancing my knowledge of the position's legal and administrative duties and was recently awarded a scholarship to attend the New York State Town Clerks Association Annual Training Conference. During the 3-day event, I took many classes and completed the new clerk track. After becoming a member of the Genesee County Clerks Association, I took on a leadership role as secretary to get further involved in the community. I have taken other web-based training courses such as cybersecurity, records management, record storage, filing local laws, and minute taking. I am learning a lot through the job training with our new water district project and establishing new local laws. I'm currently working on a new town website, a Facebook page, and becoming a notary. For me, the role of town clerk is not just a stepping stone. If elected, you're not just adding a name on a ballot, you are gaining a long-term partner, someone who is committed not just to the next 4 years, but to the long-term success and future of Alexander. This is where I would like to plant roots and build an office that you can count on year after year. With a fresh perspective, I am confident that my strong organizational skills, honesty, effective time management, and proven ability to multitask make me an effective and reliable town clerk. I am asking that when you come out on November 4th to vote for me, Shannon Bartholomew, as your town clerk of Alexander. Any questions?
We can't give you the same question. I don't even know if anybody here can vote for you. Right? You can only vote if you're a resident of
Alexander,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but we felt it was important to come out and get the message out for all of our candidates that are running. We do have a full ballot this year, so just trying to get out and get as much information about our candidates as possible.
Yes, it's very thorough. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. I really enjoy the position. I worked at home. I was working from home for about 6 years previous to that. And we moved into Alexander, and this has been an incredible way to get to know my community and all the people that are surrounding.
You have to have so many different skill levels too. They've thrown in your social media too.
Yeah, it's definitely, there are definitely a lot of hats for town clerk that I wasn't aware of, when I thought it would just be a nice little, easy job, and not easy, but I mean, there are a lot of, there's a lot to it, more than what I thought, but I'm really enjoying the learning process. And, like I had mentioned, I went to the conference this year and was able to speak with 900 other town clerks, and get to network with them and pick up little things about the job. And so I'd really like to stay.
I'd vote for you if I was there.
Well, I appreciate that.
All right. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you. Okay. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
You can't even think about it. And I was like, oh, it's good to know, but. Thanks, it is.
We get ahead of ourselves if we're saying going 2 more.
There's 2 more.
Yeah, so we got a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, but,
Oh.
Nikki's schedule to 2:05. Yeah, they did, they did.
Yeah, we're not speaking.
Cody's already here.
You can sit, stand, whatever you prefer. And a little introduction about yourself and then you can open it up with questions. He's running for county legislature.
So, hi guys, my name's Nikki Calhoun. I am from Leroy. I am currently running for county legislature, District 5 for Genesee County. One of my big topics is going ahead and trying to reinforce the reimbursement rate that our current agencies get from the state, Medicare, special education programs, all of our state mandated programs that our county has to go ahead and budget in every year that seem to have a little bit of a delay on their reimbursement so that we can try and have a more balanced budget in terms of getting things paid for in a more timely manner instead of having to offshoot it. Looking at helping our senior population age in place with housing and incentives, and making sure that our mental health and our special education programs are fully funded here in Genesee County. So those are 3 of my main points that I have been talking to folks about, as well as our local issues such as getting water to the last 4 corners of our area and making sure everybody has equal access to those utilities. So, yes.
Can you talk a little bit about yourself?
So I have 3 daughters, 2 21-year-olds and a 15-year-old. We have lived in Leroy since 2014. Before that, we were in Pavilion. Husband and I have been together since high school, so living, working in the area since then. SUNY Brockport graduate. Started off my career in pharmaceutical sales and as a technician. Worked with the American Red Cross for a number of years with the emergency management program and helping our unhomed individuals finding housing here in Genesee County. And I've been in the medical field in one capacity or another since high school. So I've done everything from, like I said, pharmaceutical sales and as a technician to home health work, and then I went into consulting work for a while. Now I'm back as a hospital liaison.
You had mentioned earlier something about aging in place and incentives. Can you say more about what you were meaning?
So a lot of our houses in our area, being in a rural area, a lot of our houses, we have a lot of the old farm homes, a lot of the old Victorian homes. They're not quite compatible for somebody who might be aging a little bit. So what are they looking for? They're looking for something maybe a little smaller, maybe something a little single story. In Leroy, we just had, I don't know how many, I think it was 20 patio homes built. And they were built almost immediately from individuals within our communities who want to stay local, who don't want to have to go out to Rochester to an ALF or into a nursing facility. They want to stay local, but just can't maintain those larger homes or the large amount of property anymore. So how do we find ways and resources to go ahead and allow people to stay local for, they lived here their entire lives. How do we go ahead and allow them to stay here as they age without having to send them to the city or into a group setting so that they can have that independent
aspect of their life in their senior years. I think giving tax breaks to the senior citizens as well is something we absolutely need to look into. Individuals who have paid property tax for 50 years maybe need a little bit of a cut on some of their other things as they age. Help them stay where they want to stay and not have to go ahead and seek out other alternative housing measures. Yep.
So to piggyback off the housing, what are your thoughts on a warming center in Genesee County and your thoughts on low income housing for individuals, whether they're homeless, up to aging?
So the warming center, I think, is an absolutely wonderful idea. Out of high school, I joined the American Red Cross, and even back then, I remember us having unhomed individuals coming in and looking for assistance and being told by our county legislators back then that we didn't have unhomed individuals. And I have heard that narrative for the last 20-something years. And we all know it's not true. We see them. They're not being bussed in. They're individuals from our community who don't have a place to stay, who cannot go ahead and afford their homes anymore, or for whatever reason, have medical issues that push them out of the places that they are staying. In the facility I work at right now, we actually have a gentleman from this area who was living on the streets for the 2 years. He was a drill sergeant in the United States Air Force for 15 years, was a long-haul truck driver for another 10, and had a psychiatric break. There were not services available for him because he wasn't fully connected to the VA at the time. That shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. So a warming center is humanity. That shouldn't even be a question. And pushback on that is, I think, silly. Low-income housing, we absolutely need to investigate that as well. We need places for our younger families to live. We need places for our kids to stay here and grow and start their careers. And they're not going to go ahead and buy a $200,000 house. We need to think smarter. Otherwise, we're going to see the decline in our population, and that's going to be the decline on our tax rates, our tax bracket. We need to go ahead and think outside the box on some of these situations.
Do you think low-income housing should be concentrated or spread throughout the community?
I think it depends on the community. Someplace here in, let's say, the city of Batavia, maybe having it in one particular area isn't ideal. Maybe we need to go ahead and look at having it one on the east side, one on the west side. Where someplace, let's say Oakfield, is a little bit smaller, I don't think it would be a bad idea to just have one building, maybe locally centered. So I think it depends on the area. Being in a rural community is a little bit different than being in the city of Rochester, city of Buffalo. You know, we have different needs we need to go ahead and look at. We need to think about the transportation lines that are available. We have low-income housing, but no bus line. What are we doing? That makes zero sense. Those people aren't going to be able to maintain that housing, period. So we need to have a full cycle. We need to be able to have support services for individuals who need it. We need transportation, and we need the jobs. That's going to go ahead and help us keep those people in those houses. And then hopefully get on their feet and actually be able to purchase a house later on.
What do you think of the data center proposed at the STAMP project?
I think it's not the greatest idea. We have seen throughout the country where other communities have rejected this based off of the noise pollution, the environmental impact that it's had, the cultural impact that it has on the communities. And I think the community around here has voiced their opinion pretty well that they don't want their ecological system disturbed with something like that. You know, we already have water issues out here where we're trying to go ahead and maintain the water for the individuals who are living out here. We don't need to go ahead and concentrate it for some AI generated building. I mean, it's that simple. I think the community has voiced their opinion on that
clear enough. Maybe it's time that people start listening to what folks are saying.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you guys.
And our last gentleman has been sitting with us all afternoon. Be right back. The next speaker is here, Gordon Devil, running for county budget. You know, you can sit, stand, whatever you want. Introduce yourself and then take questions.
Yeah, I'm Gordon Dibble, and I was born and raised down in Pembroke, currently in the legislature for Pembroke and Darien. I'm going to court too, them out. So this will be finishing my 8 years, I think, on my term. And let's see. I'm in Pembroke, like I said. I went to Pembroke High School, graduated in '70s. I went on to Aurora University out in Illinois, graduated with a BA, which is kind of jail related. And then I came back. Shortly after coming back, I got a job at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. 1975. I worked as a jail deputy. They didn't have correction officers back then. They had jail deputies back then. So I worked in the jail for a year. That was education. And then I was promoted to the road patrol. I was in uniform road patrol for roughly the next 5 years. And then I was promoted to juvenile investigator. And I worked in juvenile a good part of my career. I enjoyed juvenile work. I taught the DARE program in the schools. And some of my students, you know. I run into them. It's amazing. That was very, very rewarding too. I enjoyed that. And then the road patrol chief deputy job came open. I applied for that, and I was promoted to that. I spent the remainder of my career in that position, retiring as a chief deputy of road patrol. So then when I had announced my retirement, I was approached to run for this job that was coming open. Mike Davis was still in the job in Darien. And Mike was trying to raise a young family and moving up in his job, so he had to move on. So I was recruited and I took the job. I ran for office unopposed and have enjoyed it ever since. I think it's an important job, and I think it's one that the reasons I think I should continue to do it is, for one thing, I'm retired. I have time, and don't let anybody tell you this is an easy job. Don't let anybody tell you it's a part-time job. But I figured I make about $4 an hour when I put together. But it keeps me connected to the government and to Genesee County, the people that I know in Genesee County. So I've enjoyed that. I think that the legislature, and I'm going to talk a little different than what other ones have. I kind of geared up a little different way, but maybe I should because I'm already in the job. So bear with me if I stumble through this a little bit. But the legislature is 9 people, and our job is to oversee the entire county. And there's a lot to it. There's 26 different agencies, plus a host of other agencies that we hope to support that we think are worth including this agency here. And so that we oversee that. Well, we have a county manager, Matt Landers. Landers is our county manager, and he has assistant county manager and a small staff. And it's his job. He's like the CEO. Think of him as the CEO of the county. It's his job to run the day-to-day county operation. It's not a legislator's job to be into the weeds, into the details. It's about policy and overseeing what's going on. Was mentioned that people don't see a lot of work being done. Well, in these legislative meetings, by the time you get to the legislative meeting, the final meeting, when something's approved. Most of the work has been done. It's done in committees. It's done in work. I think nothing of getting a hold of our department managers, the heads of these departments. If you have a concern, they brought up something, asked for something, or they've got a problem. I don't have a problem with going right to the county, or any of this, talking directly with the department heads, as it should be. So that's part of the process, because you have to educate yourself. You read whatever they bring in front of you too. There's a lot of reading to educate yourself. And then there is the either the Human Services Committee, which I serve on, or the Public Service Committee, and they split the different departments. In the health department, I've got the mental health department, the health department, Office for the Aging, those types of agencies. So then the work is done in those committees too. And then it goes before Ways and Means. Ways and Means Committee is made up of all your chairs of the legislature, plus the supervisor. So if you can see, there's a process here. It's not just, made because everybody else is following it. That's just unfair. We're losing 2 legislators, and I'm here to tell you that that's going to leave a gap. These are talented people. I don't care where you come from, what side of the aisle you're from. These people were hardworking, talented people. Gary Mayhaw was a sheriff. He worked extensively. He was in contact with Albany and the agencies down there, the Sheriff's Association. He was very knowledgeable, and so he'll be missed. And Shelley Stein was very knowledgeable, a lot of experience, a lot of political experience, a lot of time on the legislature. When you lose people like that, it's going to leave a hole. I'm confident that the people that I've seen here today, that we'll find people that'll do a good job. So that's a good thing. So I serve on several committees, as a matter of fact. One of that, I serve on the Mental Health Community Services Board. Been on that since I started. I enjoy that, working with them. I think Linda Batavia runs a tight ship, and she does a good job. But I enjoy that work. I also serve on a couple subcommittees on IDD. Actually, I chair that committee. And the that one. I don't serve on that one. But I understand that you have representation on some of on at least 1 or 2 of the other subcommittees of mental health. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we work closely with the data. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Nobody in your agency on the IDD though.
Not right now, they're not, but we did have a chairperson who was on, Ann Scherf was on the IDD board for a very long time. I'm not sure. She might not currently be on it or attending.
I don't think she is anymore, but she was.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's those subcommittees. I also serve on, all of them, say to serve on committees, to be liaisons to keep us up as a group up to speed. And it's another way of knowing what's going on. Agencies like, I serve on the Stop DWI committee. I'm on the CJAC committee, which is Criminal Justice Advisory Council. That has everything that everybody's to do with criminal justice. And my background being criminal justice, it's a good fit. I'm also on the 2050 program on the steering committee for that, the comprehensive planning. I'm on the steering committee for that. I lose track of what I'm on. So anyway, I just wanted you to know that a little bit about what it's about. A couple of things, our relationship with this organization, we have, we do budget money here. I think it's somewhere in the area of $50,000, which comes through a grant. And we also have a liaison person. We have Pam LaGrew, who is a compliance officer for the county. She's also our dedicated ADA compliance person, which not every county has that. So we feel we've done a good job with that. And she does a good job. Tell me I'm wrong, but I think she was a county legislative clerk before that job. So she came with a lot of knowledge, does a great job. And she sits on your board. not on your board, but your committee.
The committee, yes.
Yeah.
She's a great asset.
Every month she's here.
Yeah.
She brings information back to us, so just want to say we're not totally uninformed. So, um. Oh, also, there was another funding stream, not this year, but last year, I think you applied for opiate funding.
Yes, we
And it
did.
was granted $100+ thousand.
87.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't apply this time around.
No.
Understanding. And for those of you that don't know, that's the settlement for the opioid that came around, much like the cigarette one that happened maybe 20 years ago, where the people are paying. This money comes in at the county level. It also comes in at the mental health level, and you could apply it for grants with parts of this money. But you have to make sure you can demonstrate that it has to have the opioid, part of it. So I landed it, but Batavia basically runs it for mental health, and I think again does a very good job. She brings it before the board. The board looks everything over, reads it over, gives approval, not approval, whatever, and based on the guidelines that are given to us. So that's another source of revenue. And I wanted to mention a little bit more about the departments. And I feel that there's so much, life is busy today, and it's complicated. And, there's a lot to know. You imagine government knowing, most people, when I go out and talk to people, it's amazing how much they really don't know and can't know because it's just too much. But that's why they have people like me to represent my people in the town of Pembroke and Darien, to understand what they want and need, and to bring that back and represent the people. While you're representing the county as a whole, which is a complicated kind of job sometimes, because the county as a whole may not necessarily agree with your towns. I've been, trust me. So it's not easy. I often liken this job to like a juggling act. You've got on one side, you've got needs. You've got everybody wants these services. You like your roads plowed. You like your potholes filled. You like to have mental health available. You like to have a highway department available, health department available, office for the aging, on and on and on. But it's got to be paid for somewhere. So it's balancing taxes because, as it's been mentioned here today, there's a lot of people that hurt. I mean, hurt. And then you've got services on the other side that people want and demand and require. And so it's a balancing act. And it's not a great thing, especially around budget time. It's challenging. I did mention some of the departments. When you talk to people, they aren't even aware of a wonderful agency like the Office of the Aging. The services they provide, being a senior citizen, are really outstanding. They're just top shelf. And I refer lots of people all the time. Everything from how to deal with Medicare to taxes. They even have an attorney that comes in there and helps you out on some very basic things. Wonderful resource. Our mental health office, I think they do a great job. They cover a lot of ground. They have trouble keeping staffing too, which is another challenge. As a county legislature, you're balancing that. You're also trying to obtain and retain your employees. Now, some people around here that work for the county might understand that, but it's a hard thing. And frankly, we fall behind on keeping our people paid adequately. And so we're competing in the workplace with everybody else out there. And so we've gone through here in the last few years a correction where we tried to elevate them to at least what other counties are making around us, the competition. And we think we've done a pretty good job with that. That, again, not an easy job because, your grade may need correction. You thought yours did too. Well, we did a survey, we looked around, we did our homework and decided that. So it's a progress, it's a work still in progress because you don't do that over. So we want to take care of our employees. We want to fill the gaps, and we always have lots of places. If you're looking for a good job, a civil service job, I encourage you to go down to.
Don't be poaching from this room.
And go down there and look and see what they've got available. You'd be surprised. But we're always looking for good help. On mental health, always looking for help there. We're down 6, 7, 8 employees at any given time. And it's a difficult field to keep people in there. So Now that I rambled off of that, it wasn't.
We were wondering what you think of the stamp, your question to the other people, what do you think of stamp?
Yeah, stamp, stamp started what, 15 years ago or more, 15 to 20 years ago, I think it was, when they started this thing. They started with the approval of the village, not the village, the town people, the town board. They worked with them. I wasn't around for this, but I'm just saying. This is my understanding. I've done a lot of reading on the history of it. I like to understand how we got where we're at and where we were. And they went through this process of establishing this. If you remember, there was a big push to get the microchips of the ban through New York State, remember? And so they wanted to put that type of attractive type of industry. Why else do they want to attract it? Good jobs, good paying jobs, and revenues too. I mean, those places like that are in there are paying pretty serious revenue. Now, sometimes they get a tax break. People will bring that up. GCEDC, do they offer pilot program, which is payment in lieu of tax? Absolutely. Why? Because that's what attracts people like that in here. Now, it's not forever. They don't get a tax break forever, and they do pay in lieu of taxes. So they get a break. That's to draw them and to get them in here, but it's a limited for a period of time. They have been picky on people that have. I know there's agencies that have applied to get in there and they denied them because they're trying to keep within that technical field that they're in. This pumping station, Edwards, it's a serious company. They make I don't know, there's some kind of vacuum pumps, high-end vacuum pumps that are needed in that chip type of thing. Well, I'm not even getting them. Sorry. Don't yell at me.
So stamp is good or bad?
I think stamp is good. You won't always agree with what they're doing, but I gotta tell you, they follow the rules. They have the hearings, they get the permits, they work with the state, some places, the federal government. They reached out to the nation, the Seneca Nation there, working with them. Has it been successful with it? Not so much, but they have followed everything, dotted all the dots, filled out everything they should have. Does everybody agree with it? Absolutely not. I get that. But everything you do, every place you put a place or housing, if you put housing in, you get people that you get back, push back, right, from housing. I think we talked about that here. Certain that old, not my neighborhood type of thing. I don't care what you do. If it's inside, you're going to always have that. You just are. But I think that they've done their job. I think economic development, getting outside of staff, I think they've done a wonderful job with this county. GC, EDC, the growth that they brought in here. And unfortunately, the one part they get to talk about is water, is we don't have enough water to support it. What good is housing and industry if you don't have water? So my top priority is water in mind. It's water, it's housing, and I mean all kinds of housing, everything from young families that are trying to get a start, to seniors that are trying to get someplace that would be, to people that need additional funding, just to keep in their house, to stay in their house. And we wouldn't be talking so much about homeless if we were doing a better job on housing. So we need to do better on that. And the last thing I put on there was, I don't know. Doesn't matter. So anyway, okay. Any questions? If anybody has any questions, I'll stay around.
One more speaker.
Good, I thought you said I was last.
We one more in. We have one more in. We have Bill Lambert, who's running for town council.
Good job.
It's good that you didn't get any questions.
Okay, I've been sitting for a while. So.
Yeah.
My name is Bill Lambert. I'm running for town council in town of Leroy. I say Leroy because I'm a newbie. I've been there since 1980. And my children are children of newbies. It's many local people do call Leroy, so it goes back and forth. I think part of it is for the cheer that is, it was talked about earlier, East Roy, opposing town to say East Roy Leroy, shouting it out. Anyway, I've my background is I'm been a musician my whole life and managed a band. If anybody thinks that's easy, It's one of the hardest things you can do. I've worked a number of day jobs in the antique business. I've worked in carpentry in the trades. I worked in a lumber yard. And my last 17 years before I retired, I worked for Proctor's Ace Hardware, which was one of the hardest jobs I ever took. I thought it would be simple. And I had experience in the trades. I knew what a hammer was. And I walked in there and it was extremely difficult. You had to have so much knowledge about so many different topics. It took a while to learn. It was a full year before I learned how to really communicate the business. But the business gave me the opportunity to meet a lot of people and talk with people. And some people even thought I knew what I was doing by the time I finished. Yeah, I've decided to run for Leroy Town Council. I'm retired, like many people have been here. And I started looking at the local council, and I'm not going to say the people in the council, I know them all, they're all decent people. But it's easy when you have one party rule to get into groupthink. You don't have any ideas coming from the outside. And I thought that I also was tired of walking to the voting booth and looking down and thinking, why am I even here? There's nobody to run against. So I decided I would do this and run for council. So I've through my life I've seen certain things. As far as homelessness goes, I've seen men drinking out of barrels of empty beer bottles in the morning to get drunk. I've been accosted by a homeless man who demanded money. I've seen a family that, through no fault of their own, was living in a tent. The problem has grown to the point where even in my own little village, we have probably 3, maybe 4 people that I know of that don't have a place to live. I think a warming center is a good idea. I do agree with the gentleman earlier who said that training is a must. You have to have people who are trained and vetted. They are in a vulnerable position. Low-income housing, I think, to answer my own question, I think it's a good idea to try to spread out low-income housing as much as you can. It should be on bus lines, but I think it's good to integrate people into the community and not have separate communities all over within a community. At the town level, there's not a heck of a lot that you can do about it. You can work in the zoning to try to get more, make it more available. As far as disabilities go, my father had Parkinson's, battled Parkinson's for 20 years before he died. My uncle died of it recently, and my sister also has it. In each case, I've seen them deteriorate and need more assistance as time goes on. And I think it's very important from the simple things, from making the push buttons so you can get into a building easily, and all the simple things you can do, and the more complex things, which are aid, and to make them more available. Unfortunately, we're getting cut on many of those things. The other thing is our watershed in Leroy. We have a beautiful creek going through the village, and that creek eventually goes into the Genesee River and into our drinking source, our water source. As one candidate talked about, Kodak was a wonderful business in many ways. It employed thousands upon thousands of people. It also dumped tons and tons of poisons into our environment, into the same lake that we now drink out of. The watershed and for the Eureka Creek, I do believe needs to be protected. At the federal level, SRFs have been cut. This is what supports clean water by up to 90%. And we need to do as much as we can at the local level to keep everything as clean as possible. All right, that's a few of the basic things. The other thing is working for or being elected. One of the main things is the infrastructure. That's one of your main costs. Taxes need to be kept as low as possible. One way to do that is to make sure everything is maintained. And if it's not maintained, it's gonna cost a heck of a lot more. We all know that. Let something go, you let the brakes go in your car, you know you need to replace the brakes, and next thing you know, you got the brakes and the rotors. And it's a lot more expensive. The other costs we have in the town are police and the fire, which we actually contract with the village to have that paid for. But the town is growing. As the town grows, we have more people living out in the town, and the services, as time goes on, we'll have more demand. So we need to have the long-term planning to incorporate that down the road. Okay, and I want to thank Independent Living for slipping me in here. And, any questions?
I think you had the benefit of hearing what our questions were
I
going to be.
did, yes. It was an unfair advantage, and I have to admit.
Thank you very much for sticking it out with us.
Sure. Thank you much for having me.
Is it still going on?
We're still streaming, so once we wrap up, then we'll take the stream down.
Do you know if Todd does Todd have any closing questions or comments?
I don't think so. We'd just like to thank everybody for coming today, listening online, and most of all to all the candidates who showed up. This was a very robust meet the candidates, and we really appreciate the fact that everybody showed up. So thank you all for coming.
Don't turn YouTube off yet.
No, you got final words?
Apparently, we do have a candidate who couldn't be here today, that sent a statement to be made available to the people that were in attendance. Okay. So I want to make sure that everybody gets, the statement. This is from Eric Wagner. Don't know what race he's running for. Alexander. My name is Eric Wagner, and I've lived in Alexander my entire life. This community has always been home to me. I'm married and the proud father of 2 boys. One is grown and the other is currently a junior in high school. Alexander has shaped who I am, and I've always tried to give back to the town that has given me so much. Why do I want to be elected to the position? I'm seeking re-election because I genuinely care about Alexander and its residents. I've dedicated my time to serving this community because I believe in its future. My goal is to continue working hard to ensure that Alexander remains a great place to live, work, and raise a family. What unique qualities do you bring to the town? Having lived here my entire life, I bring a deep understanding of the town's history, values, and needs. I combine that local knowledge with a commitment to fiscal responsibility, making sure that every decision made is thoughtful, efficient, and in the best interest of our residents. I strive to balance financial responsibility with maintaining and improving the services that make Alexander a strong, close-knit community. What are the main issues you feel the town is facing? One of the biggest challenges is maintaining fiscal responsibility while continuing to provide important services for residents. As costs rise and budgets tighten, it's critical to make smart financial decisions that protect taxpayers without sacrificing the quality of life at Alexander. I believe careful planning, transparency, and community involvement are key to addressing these changes. What else would you want the community to know about you? I love this town. I've raised my family here, and I care deeply about its future. My focus has always been on doing what's best for Alexander, not just for today, but for generations to come. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to serve and hope to continue working with you all to make Alexander even stronger. I believe that's all I have.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you a lot for your participation.
Hey, thanks for coming by.
Yeah, it's good.
Good explanation. Definitely. Most people have no idea. The complications and all the stuff involved.
Well, you sort of done that.